morning, everyone. We're testing the system, so, just, bear with us if it sounds like it's a little removed. This is the regular meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts, and this is the November 18th, 2019, 9 a.m., 10 minutes after meeting. This is my call to order. The first item in the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to invite everyone to stand and would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Supervisor McLeod?
Sure, thank you. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And the first item actually on the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, to responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and a decision at a future date. I do have three requests to speak. Now, this request, two of them are actually on items in the agenda, so these two I'll leave. There's one from, Gene Dalby, which I figured there would be something because we got this little notebook here from the bicycling group here. So, I'm supposed, Gene, come up. You earned your right to be up there. This is for next year too. It isn't one of the old ones that just about the end. This is for 2020.
Glad to see you back.
Gene, glad to see you back.
Good morning. Thank you. Gene Dalby, 1183 West 37th Street. Yes, it is good to be back, and I'm here, and I will be continuing to be here.
Is that a warning or?
Yeah, you might say that. I mean, we have a dialogue that works pretty well, I think, and everybody kind of understands where I'm coming from. I'm always interested in making Yuma bigger and better in a place that's more life-enjoying and family-oriented, and I guess peace on earth is the message, and we're the start of it. I love Yuma. I've been here for 28 years, and my favorite comment is another beautiful day in Yuma. It'll be my epitaph, I'm sure. But I also say that some people come back with, and the weather in Yuma is so hot. But my response is, it's not the weather, it's the people. It's what makes Yuma a great place to be, to live, to raise our families, and do all the kind of things that are important for our future. I have 4 children, and I have 14 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. And believe me, when I was in my 30s, I had no clue that this was going to happen to me, but there it is. So I love Yuma. I love what we stand for, and I love the effort that each of you do to make Yuma a better place. And as you know, one of the other comments that I have is, what about bicycles? Everything that applies to transportation has an impact on bicycling. And I'm very grateful for what you've done in the area, and we still have more work to do. So thank you to each of you and to our county staff. Great people to work with. I've never had an issue that we couldn't work through, that wasn't something that was a positive effect. So to all of us here in the crowd, thank you, and more importantly, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you,
Gene, you need to make a note. You call it a beautiful Yuma sunshine day. It's sunny Yuma. And, we're like what, the #1 place in the country for sunny days or something like that. So.
Yeah, we are. We are. The sunniest city in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. And that's just a piece of it. People complain about Yuma from time to time. When I start the day, I always look for the positive attitude. And it's easier to go through the day expecting the positive side of things than it is to look at the negative.
I keep telling that to Supervisor McLeod, but.
The negative stir the pot of all kinds of issues that are just probably of no benefit. The thing is that it's important to look at the positive side and be a contributing member. Stand up. I started this effort on the bicycles about 7 years ago, and I said I'm going to commit 10 years of my life on this project, and I'm amazed at the amount of progress that we've made. But I think that it's because it's a positive attitude, and we know that bicycling is an important thing in terms of the quality of life.
I shouldn't have stopped you. Thank you, Gene.
Well, you know what, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
thank you for your advocacy because you've seen the attitude of this board change over time. Extremely conservative in the past, but now looking toward the future and making progress for the betterment of Yuma County going forward. So you've had a hand in that.
You guys are doing that. I appreciate it.
All right,
Bless you all and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Anybody else that wants to say good things? It's open. It's open to the public. For this purpose only. No, I'm gonna leave that.
A room full of people with nothing good to say.
I'm gonna leave this item open throughout the meeting so that if anybody wants to say good things, we can always open it up again. Okay? Anybody else really? You don't have to give us one of your forms. You don't have to fill out a form. If you find yourself in a situation where you want to say something, make sure you let us know. The next item in the agenda is presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. No legal actions will be taken. Are there any appointments that any board member wants to make? No? We're moving on then to the number one item in this part of the agenda, which is the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel. And one of the primary reasons we were held back a little bit.
An Arizona Association of Counties visit preps your county leaders for the legislative session. An interesting looking vehicle will soon be on the road helping our public works crews. And our Office of Emergency Management held a tabletop training exercise to help keep the community prepared in case of emergency. These stories and more, this is your County Line. As we mentioned during the last County Line, the new legislative session is coming up quickly. Recently, Yuma County elected officials received a visit from the Executive Director of the Arizona Association of Counties. The Executive Director of ACO, Jen Marson, has lobbied for counties since 2002 and has expertise in all areas county-related. While she manages the daily operations of ACO, she also directs the state and federal government affairs program while coordinating the association's outreach programs.
Counties and the people who work there, they have jobs to do every day. They can't be at the Capitol advocating for, or against pieces of legislation that legislators have introduced. So they need somebody like us. We're a private nonprofit who works on behalf of counties to carry their messaging for them so they can be back in their home areas doing the work that they need to be doing.
Her presentation here is part of making sure she and her staff at the state legislature are successful during the session. In just a couple of weeks, many Yuma County elected officials and agency heads will be heading to ACO's annual conference, where all Arizona counties will begin discussing similar interests in working together on legislation for the upcoming session in January. Did you know Yuma County is 5,500 square miles? Within those boundaries are hundreds of roads. It can be a challenge for Yuma County Public Works employees to keep up with all of that, but soon a vehicle that looks pretty strange will be on the road and will help ease their pain. Meet the RST, or better known as Laser Road Surface Tester. Your Public Works Department has teamed up with Infrastructure Management Services, a firm in Tempe, to complete a detailed inventory and condition rating of all roadways that our Public Works Department maintains.
So right now we inspect our roadways on a 3-year rolling basis, so about a third of our 600 miles every year. The advantage to this is we can get all 600 miles in probably a little less than 2 weeks. And right now we perform visual inspections, and there's an element of human error and or subjectivity to that. This will provide an objective inspection of our roadways.
These vehicles will be seen in and around Yuma County. Sort of like Google Map vehicles you may have spotted, these are collecting data specifically about the road you're driving on. No exact date has been set for the launch of this program, but our Public Works pros hope to have them on the road by late December, or of the new year. So stay tuned, we'll keep you updated. Believe it or not, one of the toughest parts of being ready for the unknown is the preparation. That's why the Yuma County Office of Emergency Management constantly holds trainings to keep the community ready for emergencies. Recently, the Yuma County Health District Public Health Preparedness Office held 2 tabletop exercises at Arizona Western College. The focus uses real-world scenarios to emphasize the need to review, train, and update operations should a worst-case scenario occur.
The staff that is at AWC will be more aware of signs and symptoms to look for this particular outbreak. So they've got some educational piece behind it with what does a meningitis outbreak look like, and also the staff is able to respond more quickly when there is a situation that requires fast action like meningitis.
These trainings focused on a meningitis outbreak on campus, which originates in a residential hall. The tabletop exercises also included educational partners from Yuma County, as well as international partners from Mexico. Events like this allow our health department to form strong relationships with agencies everywhere in our community, should the need to respond arise.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your Library Update. Movie lovers, listen up. We're launching a brand new streaming service that you are going to love. Starting right now, you can log on to yumalibrary.org and through our resources page, log in to Canopy. Canopy is a brand new streaming service that features more than 30,000 indie movies, documentaries, and children's titles. If you stream through the children's service, you have unlimited choices for the entire month. And on the adult side, you can stream up to 10 different movies per month. This is all completely free. All you need to do is have a valid Yuma County Library card and sign up for an account. For more information on Canopy or any of our other great services, log on to our website at yumalibrary.org. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook.
On this edition of our Department Spotlight series, we take a closer look at the county's Victim Services Division.
Our mission is to help victims of crime throughout the criminal justice process. Our office consists of 4 notification staff, and their duty is to mail out or email notification to victims of crime throughout the whole process of a defendant court proceedings. And then we also have 5 advocates that assist victims throughout the criminal justice process and letting them know what their rights are, escorting them to court, letting them know of upcoming hearings, and also giving any type of referrals that they may need. The Victim Compensation Program has benefits for medical expenses, wage loss, funeral expenses, mental health counseling, and some transportation costs. Our overall goal is to serve victims of crime and letting them know of their rights, as well as letting them be heard and be treated fairly, and so that they know that they have support and that there are services here that are available to help them throughout the process.
You can learn more about Yuma County's Victim Services Division by visiting yumacountyaz.gov. Before we go, a reminder about most of your county offices being closed. Thanksgiving is just ahead, and we want everyone to know that most of your county offices will be closed on November 28th and 29th, so our employees can enjoy the holiday with their families. And from all of us here at your county government, please have a safe Thanksgiving holiday. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this County Line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
All right. And once the lights come back on, we're back to normal, right? Which is unusual. I don't know what normal is, but. All right, that takes care of item number 1, which is the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77. So the next item in the agenda, item number 2 of the presentation, proclamations, and appointments agenda is where the vice chair proclaims the day of December 1st, 2019 to be World AIDS Day. He begged me for this assignment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclaiming the day of December 1st, 2019 as World AIDS Day. Whereas the global spread of HIV infection and AIDS necessitates a worldwide effort to increase communication, education, action, and overall prevention to stop the spread of HIV/AIDS. And whereas the World Health Organization observes December 1st of each year as World AIDS Day, a day to expand and strengthen the worldwide effort to stop the spread of HIV/AIDS. And whereas for 2018, UNAIDS reports the global HIV and AIDS statistics as follows. 37.9 million people globally were living with HIV. 1.7 million people become newly affected with HIV. 770,000 people died from AIDS-related illnesses. 74.9 million people have become infected with HIV since the start of the epidemic. 32 million people have died from AIDS-related illnesses since the start of the epidemic. About 8.1 million people did not know they were living with HIV. Whereas December 1st is World AIDS Day, a time to celebrate the many lives saved by HIV prevention and treatment programs. It also serves as a reminder that we all must do more as individuals, community, and world citizens to fight the spread of HIV and AIDS. Now, therefore, Marco A. Tony Reyes, Chairman of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaims the day of December 1st, 2019 to be World AIDS Day in Yuma County and urges the public to increase their awareness and understanding of HIV/AIDS as a global challenge and to join efforts to prevent the further spread of HIV/AIDS. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Supervisor McLeod. And with us is Diane Gomez, Director of Public Health. And she's here to receive the proclamation, but she may want to say
Good
a few words.
morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. I just want to stand up here and again, thank you for supporting us every year. As you read, the key to this is early testing and identification, and again, raising awareness to remove that stigma for a condition that went from a terminal condition to what is now a very manageable condition if it's caught early. So I want to recognize my staff and just thank them for their hard work, Martha and Jemida, and thank you again.
Martha Rodriguez and Yomaida Munoz?
Yes.
All right, let's go out.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'm all like, come up to the front.
Come up to the front.
Yeah. See, they listen to you. They don't listen to me.
I get that mean all the time.
Hello. Listen to me. Nobody listens to me. All right.
Okay, so the photographer is getting ready.
Okay.
She's coming over. Yeah, the pen.
Yeah.
And
It's
they go
okay.
one over.
Uh-oh.
It's missing a pen.
It's missing the back.
Yeah, it's one side. Anyway.
Okay, well, we'll give you a new one.
All right, okay, now, everybody, is this wide enough, the lens?
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
so
a
much.
great job. You're a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sorry. Thank
She's a
you.
hugger. She hugs trees and stuff.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Give me the glasses.
Thank you.
She's a hugger, you know, she hugs everyone.
I know, even you.
I know.
Why?
If I don't see her coming,
Thank you.
she hugs the trees. Obviously, she
I'm an
hugs
old
me.
kindergarten teacher.
All right, the
No.
next item in the agenda is
Really?
item number 3.
Yeah, I was
Chairman
gonna say, not
proclaims
old.
November 18,
Retired.
2019. I'm gonna wait until they finish. All right, now, item number 3, Chairman proclaims November 18, 2019 as Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center Day in honor of the center's 40th anniversary. Supervisor Pancrase will read the proclamation, and we do have a group of people here to pick it up, okay?
Proclaiming the day of November 18th, 2019 as the Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center Day. Whereas over the past 40 years, the lives of thousands of youth have been forever changed by Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center's comprehensive residential, academic, and career preparation program. And whereas
The Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center in Tucson, Arizona, has served hundreds of youth and young adults ages 16 to 24 by providing high school diplomas and career technical education to these young men and women. And whereas the Job Corps Center provides social skills training and other services to empower young men and women to obtain and hold a job, enroll in advanced training, enroll in college, or enter the armed forces. And whereas over the past 40 years, the Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center has served more than 12,000 youth, of whom 95% have earned industry recognized industry credentials, and 85% have entered the workforce. And whereas recent studies demonstrate significant economic gain from investment in dropout recovery by increasing employment while simultaneously reducing public expenditures associated with healthcare, crime, and social services. Now, therefore, I, Marco A. Tony Reyes, Chairman of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the day of November 18, 2019, to be Fred G. Acosta Job Corps Center Day.
Thank you, Supervisor Pancrasi. We do have a group of people here, beginning with Mr. Bond Croft, who will, we will have a 4-minute YouTube video presentation, I think. I'm not sure about the sound system and how it's going to work.
Mr. Chairman, same as previous, just.
Oh, we're going to watch it on TV?
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Bond, Mr. Croft, I guess we'll let you introduce the rest of the group, okay? Could you please stand up? Yeah. Yeah, and we'll give you the proclamation at the end of the presentation.
Oh, that'd be fine.
If we like the presentation.
If you like it. Should we wait? We're going to give you some information from the students here. This is Celeste, and Celeste is in one of our programs for material handling distribution. She'll soon be in either warehousing or some of those kinds of industry applications.
Wow.
And this is Dominic. He's in one of our medical programs. In fact, he's currently doing a work-based learning exercise experience in a health center. So he's doing a lot of good work.
Thank you.
And then Mr. Dominic is our outreach and admissions director, supervisor. In fact, he's in Tucson. He's in Yuma this week doing some recruitment work in your local schools and youth and communities.
Yeah, come forward a little bit. Yeah, it's okay. We don't charge. You're welcome. All right. So is the video presentation ready?
Oh, this is nice.
All right. Okay, this is heavy, huh?
It has some really good stuff in it.
Job Corps gives you the skills you need to master life. At Job Corps, they teach you the skills. You can get a lot from Job Corps, but you need to work for it.
Careers begin at Job Corps. You want a career? Start building one at Job Corps.
Come to Job Corps showed me that I have way more options than I ever thought.
Job Corps helps you gain skills, but it also provides much more. The price of admission isn't money. It's the desire to succeed.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to work. You have to make sure you can't be lazy.
It's a big sense of responsibility and a big leap into adulthood.
If you're wondering free, what's the catch? There is no catch.
When you arrive, Job Corps instructors and advisors work with you on finding a career path.
You get hands-on experience, and so it makes everything more real.
And the instructors care about you.
They take their time for whoever wants to learn.
Your career path will depend on which industry and training area you choose to pursue.
I love getting my hands dirty, so I chose plumbing.
I'm studying CNA on my way to becoming a registered nurse.
I'm currently studying to become a pharmacy technician.
Job Corps offers training options in high-demand industries like healthcare, information technology, and manufacturing.
Studying computer tech.
I'm studying welding.
I'm studying office administration.
I'm studying to be an auto mechanic.
At Job Corps, you get one-on-one training that allows you to learn at your own pace. If you excel, you may be able to take advanced training courses and get an even bigger jump on the job market.
I got my Microsoft certifications here.
Now that I'm in the trade and I'm getting more hands-on and learning more about what I'm gonna do with my future, it's definitely fulfilling.
Through Job Corps' partnerships with education programs and community colleges, you can earn credits toward a college degree. You can even finish your high school education if you need to.
Job Corps gave me the opportunity to be able to go to college and put my best foot forward.
I finished my high school at Job Corps.
Job Corps is a great program for people who've never had these kind of opportunities. From ages 16 to 24, you get to focus on school, and that's it.
Job Corps rewards work.
And they give you a place to stay and feed you while you're doing it.
While in Job Corps, basic needs like housing, meals, and medical care are provided. This helps students to be able to focus more on learning and reaching career goals.
You're away from your family, but at the same time, you're here for a reason.
I'm here for my career, and being here on center, it allows me to focus on that.
You can become an active part of the center and contribute positively to your community. You'll practice important life skills like following rules and having your own responsibilities.
You have to work hard. It's a test of your work ethic.
I learned how to be a great team leader, and I learned how to perfect my communication skills.
Job Corps opens options to you. As a Job Corps graduate, you'll be on a career pathway. Job Corps students can tell you it's for real.
They help you find a job. I just finished studying carpentry, and I already have a job lined up.
Job Corps turned my life around because it made me more responsible and to think about my future.
You're now in a position where it's only you and you choose to be the person you want to be.
If you want to prepare yourself for a real career with real earning potential, find out more about Job Corps.
You come in not knowing what to expect, but you leave taking things out that are going to stick with you for the rest of your life.
When they say careers begin here, it's true.
My career began here.
It's true.
Job Corps.
Job Corps. Job Corps.
Careers begin here.
All right. Okay, thank you. That was a great presentation. We're gonna go, could you please come up?
Thanks for having us.
Hey, no problem.
That's your decision, we're gonna be here. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Come on up. Come this way.
Put students in the middle.
Yeah, put them in the, yeah, right next to, there we go.
I'm gonna get right here. All right.
Thank you. That takes care of item number, I think it was 3. And we're gonna wait until they clear a little bit so that some of the people back there can come over to the front. We don't charge for space, so come over. So what, it didn't work? Okay. Say we didn't ask you. There we go.
Item number 4 to the
There we
end.
go. All right, the next item in the agenda is another presentation. This time is an update by Gladys Brown, the Airport Director, Yuma County Airport Director, on activities at the Yuma International Airport. There will be a PowerPoint presentation that we don't know how it's gonna sound.
Oh, there's no sound. I'm smart enough to.
Oh, well, okay then. Oh, so it was just, you gonna point to it and you're gonna tell us what that
I
means?
probably should have did it on a different platform, but but it works out. It'll be fine. It'll be a little bit, the text will be a little bit off because I went on the larger, no problem.
Technical difficulties all day long.
I don't. Yeah, you know, there's a laser pointer. Those are always dangerous.
Yeah, no, I don't use those because I work at an airport. So
Yeah, we don't give them to just anyone because they point at us.
everybody knows. Thank you, Chairman Reyes and Board of Supervisors, for having us. It's always a pleasure for the Airport Authority to allow me to be the representative on behalf of not just a wonderful staff, but also for the community. The Airport Authority itself, of course, manages 2 airports, Yuma International Airport and Raleigh Airfield, which is in the city of San Luis. Again, a lot of people that are here probably already know about the airport, but just in case, just to give a quick understanding that the Airport Authority is a nonprofit organization which was formed back in 1965 for civil aviation and to also promote what aviation does for the community, especially in economic development. Not only that, it actually homes recreational aircraft, about 110, not to mention the transient based or those who come to visit, especially in the winter seasons. Our agriculture community does fly in, as well as we have other residents that fly in on their aircraft to be in the wonderful months of December through May. We also have Raleigh Airfield, which today has no currently home-based aircraft, but is a area of reference and use for pilots in training as well as military who like to use that isolated field to perform different exercises as well as touch and goes. Not only is it in a great location, but it's in a tight corridor, so great flight plan and planning has to happen for those who are looking at getting their pilot's license. Overall, the Airport Authority does manage, you look about 1,000 acres between the two airfields, 420 inside the city of Yuma, and then in the city of San Luis, about 640 acres. Altogether, I will tell you that the operations total over $250,000 with a government installation there and being the only one co-located in the Marine Corps. We most definitely are at an advantage of our partnership that we have with the air station to maintain the airfield itself. Our board of directors right now, this is what we have through the month of December, and that will be changing as we incorporate a couple of new board members, one being Ratika Dewan with Arizona Western and another one being Juan Gomez with the Date Pack company. So we will unfortunately be terming out Mr. Ron Rice, our president, as well as Stanley Gorley, one of our directors. And then Mr. Matthews is looking at concentrating in our community, but also still being an important part of the airport. But he also will be exiting the board. But as you can see, we've got a very good, diverse board from different parts of our community that most definitely provide positive input and action so that the authority can most definitely be successful into the future. And through their direction, it allows me to execute their actions and then also ensure that we're in alignment with our strategic plans and mission. Just so everybody knows, it is an organization that has an org chart. And so with that, of course, you can see our different departments, administration and IT, as well as operations and maintenance. We have a mighty staff of 22 that help to make sure that everything runs smoothly on a day-to-day and an overall strategic basis. But most definitely, I will tell you that our foundation employees that you can see, that the majority of our company is, they are the ones that you get to see every single day and that you interface with. So when you see them, they typically have on a logo that whether it's Fly Yuma or Yuma International Airport, make sure you know that they're there to help you every step of the way in the process or during your time to travel. With that, this is a very busy slide, so I call this the government slide because it has lots of words. Not intended to put anybody to sleep, but most definitely for you to gather and understand that we do have key initiatives and strategic planning. But our mission, of course, is always to have a safe, efficient, customer-focused environment for all of Yuma County. And again, established in 1965, the authority itself is about having a safe, comfortable environment so that we can be successful in the world of aviation, as well as be very business friendly and then to attract future growth for our community. As you can see, we look at expansion of aviation related businesses to stay abreast of the community growth and needs, and then also to market the airport throughout the local community and surrounding communities, and then also to promote our services to seek and look at international interfacing as well. Again, I know this is a lot to read, but it's always something, if you want to know a little bit more, we're most definitely able to provide as well as give these slides to anybody who's of interest. I'm glad those who sat down got to get a seat. So just the business overall, we're about $4 million in operation. Again, no external funding is provided, no supplemental, so everything in is out. So what we generate revenue-wise also goes into our operational cost, and we ensure that we keep a capital reserve just in case we have any form of catastrophic or loss unforeseeable. The examples of revenues that we have, a lot of you, if you look at your tickets when you fly, there's something called a passenger facility charge or a PFC. That's also regulated. It's in a restricted fund that has to be approved. We have fuel flowage fees that get when someone pumps fuel, just like you do out in the street on an airport. We have an actual FBO, an operator that pumps fuel, and we receive per gallon cost on that. And then we have surcharges because we're not a taxation authority, We're an authority in which provides fee schedules, and that's a part of our business model. And so those are called surcharges, and we have those for terminal improvements and operational costs. And then we have separate agreements that the county's allowed us as the agent or sponsor of the property to have for commercial use. And so we have commercial use, private use, which is the general aviation, and then we have multiple entities that operate there. Overall, we have about 240 jobs that are directly related to the entities and about 30 companies that operate at the airport, in which people don't even realize. And so when they ask me, do I get free flights? The answer is no. Because do you give your landlord money because you have excess or the ability to give it? The answer is probably no. Or your mortgage company extra just for them to spend? The answer is no. So I don't get any benefits, neither does anybody that works at the airport as far as the authority is concerned. We are just like everybody else, very normal customers too when we book our flights. So your bags get lost, our bags get lost. So, but they're not lost. They're just, relocated for the moment. Yeah, they're visiting other airports. That's what I tell them. With that, just so a quick breakdown so everybody understands our aeronautical revenue by source, of course, is airline rents, the fixed base operators, the commercial hangar rents, our shades and hangars. We do charge for those if they have them covered or enclosed. Fuel flowage fee, which is the cost per gallon that's pumped, and depending on the user in which is getting it pumped. We have landing fees for only commercial operators and cargo operators. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that most airports do collect landing fees on every airplane landed. We choose not to do that because it's one more in which you have to collect and you have to track. And with our tower being a DoD tower, the airfield itself being co-located with the air station, we would be weeding through to get, I always say, pennies on thousands of dollars, because a lot of them are sorties from the air station. So our general aviation, to us, it should be a benefit and of ease for them to fly. So we do not charge any aircraft visiting landing fees, tie-down fees, overnight fees. We do have a cost for them to get their badge if they choose to get a badge. And then if they choose to be marshaled and touched by the fixed base operator, they charge a facility or handling costs. And that's separate. That's a separate business model. That doesn't come to us. It's a part of the fixed base operator schedules of fees. Then we also have non-aeronautical revenues, and those include the rent cars, the parking lot, the TSA reimbursement that we get from having our law enforcement officers through an actual agreement. We have armed guards that help and assist, so that way we can free up our active duty police officers to handle what we need to in the city and the county for the sheriffs. But I will tell you, the parking lot itself is doing well. It's not something I can say is a cash cow or makes money, but it most definitely is an adventure for our team as they took it over this past year. So it is something that you don't realize when you train in-house to do that, but it takes every department. And our rent cars most definitely are something that we promote because you can pick up early, drop off late, but they generate about $1 million worth of revenue for us that really helps with our budget. So when people think the air carrier is the biggest one, one of the largest contributors is actually our non-aeronautical rent cars. And that's without a parking lot structure. So I tell people parking lot structures, not saying you guys should ever charge for those. Those actually generate a lot, but people don't realize how much it costs to build one of those too. They're extremely expensive. When you look at the trending of the revenues, and this is of concern with the county, in our agreement that you guys may or may not have read through, a lot of it says that if at any time in which the authority becomes profitable, a percentage of that must go and be turned over to the county. I will tell you that we're not about profitability, especially at this size as a non-hub in a rural airport. We're about sustainability, but we also have to trend and look at forward growth and ensure that our revenues are going to always match the operational costs as well as inflation that happens. So we have to make sure we track that. So again, as you can see, back in 2003, the authority itself was about a $1.5 million organization. And over the last decade and a half, you can see that we're now about a 4.1, almost 300% increase over what we're looking at in demand. And that's due to our great community. And again, I'm going to go on what Gene Dalby says. It isn't about the weather here, it's about the people. And I think that's a lot of why business comes here. And it's also about our government, in which make sure that business can happen and grow. This is always of interest for other folks too, because in a business, you have to look at what does each employee, as you begin revenue and taking revenue, what's the cost that each employee also contributes. So to empower your employees and your foundation employees, you want them to understand each person is a value and asset to the organization. So each of them actually contribute almost 200,000 in what they do themselves if you look at a per person basis. And so whenever they say, what's your value to the organization, I should say, you're right under a $250,000 every year. So you should know how wonderful you are and important you in what you do here. So if they ever wonder their value, we make sure that they understand that that's because of them that we can provide the exceptional service and provide those to our customers and our tenants. And then our budget, of course, as you can see, you don't want to do less with more because that's an oxymoron. You have to do what you can with what you have. And we've been fortunate enough that even though our payroll has been decreased, we still have a high demand in our tenant use and customer base. We also have been able to go and maintain those costs even over inflation in an economy that is cyclical. So again, proud to the authority for their decision making and who they place in charge and those that they employ, as well as look over. And I do today have my CFO here, who I don't ever say keeps you out of jail, but most definitely make sure that we're all straight in our audit. But Junior is most definitely one of my right-hand people, and I can't say man because, you know, what is that politically correct too, but he is most definitely one of my right-hand team members. But I think I have lots of right hands there, which is great to say. So with that, again, one of our grants looking at $1.1 million from the FAA, which are again in a restricted fund, can only be used for specific projects that are not vertical. Everything has to be horizontal on the airfield for use of commercial and recreational users on the airport and not revenue generating. The ADOT program provides on different matches as well as different state programs, like Raleigh Airfield falls under the states. The Economic Development Administration as well as the ACA, when we need to hit hard and come in with some heavy hitters to accommodate growth, we do call on those different entities so that we can build facilities and also let them know that they need to look at more than just the great state of Maricopa and also look at the outside of all of the other communities that feed into to their county. With that, you can see in an overall system, we're one of 11 commercial, and we're also one of 23 rural airports. And this is just a big overview, again, not to put anyone to sleep. If you ever wonder how much business is on the airport for everyone here, this is all the different businesses and uses on the airport. And this is just one section, as you can see, that we have from terminal all the way down. So starting up from the north, you'll see that we have commercial operations, and then general aviation goes on to the northwest down to the southwest. And then we also have what we have big business, which is more of our larger users, including civil, the Customs and Border Protection Office Air Marine Division. And then also the different operators like FedEx, as well as we have some subleasing, such as Jacobs Engineer, that will operate over at YPG. And we use this part for what we consider big general aviation. So those are your 747s, 737s, 777s, and also your heavy aircraft for military. And again, just for everybody's overall picture, if you ever wanted to know, we have commercial and also business use. And this is just an overview of what you see that I just provided. And then also, so that you're aware as the county, not only do we have this agreement with the county through our lease agreement for us to be a sponsor and accept federal and state funds, but we also have different easements on the airfield as we do own a portion of the outboard runway. The county does. Your county property line, I wish sometimes they can make them in perfect squares, but unfortunately the green is what we own. And then we have separate easements in there because some parts we only own half of a taxiway. And so you can't really rehabilitate half of a taxiway using federal funds, and you have to justify that. So we're constantly giving and educating our agencies so that they understand what we're doing and also what agreements are in place. And these agreements typically are in place for 50 years because that way we can accept entitlements and funding. So the agreement and grant assurance is you have to have at least 20 years, and that's an important number when we get into Raleigh Airfield. And again, we do this through what's called a joint use operating agreement. I want to make sure that our community understands that we do not have a JUA. So those who are former military, a joint use agreement is actually authorized through higher headquarters on the DC level. What we have is a station-based agreement between us and the commanding officers in which we talk about those letters of agreement that they provide services and associate money if necessary for those services to be performed. So again, it's a joint use operating agreement. So if someone says, hey, your shared use airport or joint use airport has a JUA, we actually have an operating agreement on station, not a JUA through the higher headquarters in Washington, D.C. It is the most confusing thing when I go in and nationally sit on different organizations because even the FAA has a tough time defining our type of airport. We are the only one in the United States like this. which is great, just so everybody knows. We also are the only airport that probably has a patent by the Department of Interior, which was established in 1956 forever. So we want to make sure we protect that as well. Through that, the letters of agreements, as you can see, the aircraft rescue firefighting, that's the most critical one, along with the tower operations. Those are the two highest costs, which you guys understand, operating a county. Airfield operations, environmental facilities, reimbursement, security, and then our aircraft visiting line. A lot of them are just so that they understand what we know that they do and our requirements in which to ensure that we maintain safety. Our goal with the air station is to maintain mission readiness and that we don't compromise their ability to be mission ready. For the county, our objective is to be sustainable and to ensure that we're operating safely and efficiently for the county and to be an entity in which can attract business as well as do it in a safe operation. So with Raleigh Airfield, I know this sits close and near to our chairman here, as this is inside his beautiful city that's growing and expanding. And we want to make sure everybody knows it is out in the middle of nowhere. If you don't know where it's at, it's very difficult to see it. And if you run into it and it's at night, you probably hit a couple of fences before you went into it. But it's out in section 35. It's after the last set of crop circles off of Arizona, or Avenue B. And if you go to the prison, you went the wrong way because we're the opposite way. It is a paved runway, 2,500 square foot hangar. It is fully access controlled, so even if you get there, you can't necessarily get in. It does have a helipad, as well as it has full security, and it's operated by well water and an electric diesel generator. Established in 1942, of course, that's when it was during World War II. You'll see a lot of these airfields all throughout the United States with those crosswind runways. They're out in the middle of nowhere because of that time and era. Again, we obtained an actual contract and license agreement through the U.S. Department of Interior in 1952, the county did. If everybody's not aware, the county pretty much controlled all of the airports or airfields in Yuma County up until the authority was formed in 1965. They did that, and it's pretty neat when you meet different families that their family had been with the county and then went over to the authority, because, again, it was seamless. They still felt like they, again, were a part of that same family, and we hope to do that today. The county did pass a management agreement in 1973 for us to take over Raleigh Airfield. So the authority took over the airport at Yuma International in 1965, and then in 1973 developed that agreement to go and oversee the airfield itself. Was dilapidating, no doubt, in the middle of nowhere, but in 1973 began to place that in its overall plan. And then now for four decades, we are most definitely utilizing it for pilot training. So the Airport Authority overall agreement as regards to Raleigh Airfield doesn't satisfy for us to actually receive additional grants. We did receive one last grant, which is to rehabilitate. We've got about 15 years left on that agreement with the county and the Bureau of Reclamation to go and oversee that property. In October last year, we did have this discussion about the county looking at terminating that agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation. And also if they were in favor of that, which would satisfy the requirement for us to take it over, which they all are in agreements with that. Again, but we dealt, though, at that time of the meeting, we met with and spoke with the chairman. He asked us to just kind of hold off so that the city of San Luis can understand, as they worked on their general plan, where did they see Raleigh Airfield and what we were looking at doing with it. So the issues were raised again. Does a lease with the Bureau of Reclamation have any value? The answer is no. It's more of a loss ledger than anything. If you ask the authority today, we fully support that airport. It's not something that generates revenue by any means. It's actually one of the items in which we have a responsibility to maintain. It does not make us any form of profit or even on sustainment. It doesn't even sustain itself. Also, would legal be willing to step aside and pass along to the authority? It sounds like the county is in support of being able to do that, as well as the Bureau of Reclamation. The biggest thing is about the city of San Luis and making sure that during their master planning process, if they're comfortable with understanding that the authority's interest is to grow with what the city's master and general plan is. The authority has no interest in trying to break away from it and being this entity. We want to make sure that it's built and formed so that it adds value to the city of San Luis, but to Yuma County. Again, the county here has verbally expressed their thoughts with our legal counsel, and that the license agreement does not have the value, and taking the steps to be legal to switch it over would be, something in which they would be in favor of. And then we're going to constantly or still work with the consultants and with the process that's currently today with the city of San Luis. Junior attended their master plan a few months ago, and that was expressed. And And it's not necessarily we're awaiting with Mr. Reyes, it's just that we need to make sure we follow up. And then if we need to, I know we can with yourself or with others to go and explain to them what exactly the authority does for that property and what we look at doing. And if they also will be a part of that decision to allow the county to release that agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation so that the authority can be the holder of it. That will help us in our grant funding moving forward. But until then, I will tell you for the next 15 years, the authority will not be able to accept any additional grants from ADOT to maintain that field. So we'll just end up having to make sure that it stays able to be flyable or land and recover off there. With that, very quickly, air service development. So I don't mean to gaze over that. I just want to make sure I keep everybody moving. Everybody's always concerned about commercial air service. One, in a rural community, I think that you guys need to be very proud that we have a legacy airline, which is American Airlines. I know sometimes people will use a different word to describe their experience, but sometimes it's not out of Yuma. It's probably coming back to Yuma, or if their luggage gets lost, which it happens to me too. But we do have 5 flights arriving and departing daily to Phoenix, and then we have 1 to DFW. The wonderful news is that beginning in 2019, this December, we are anticipated to have 2 flights to DFW, a 6 a.m. and a 12:55 departure, which means we have 2 arrivals, which is an overnight one that comes in at 8 o'clock and then one that comes midday at about 11:45 or noon. I will tell you wonderful news on the flip side of that. I briefed my board. It is only for December. So this is a trial and error. It means that they had a release of an aircraft and that they think our market may be something in which is advantageous for them. I say advantageous, a code word for that is profitable. So I'm hoping that they see it as being something that they can do and that they'll bring back in our winter seasons or when we have high demands. Everybody knows statistical wise, they do go off of stats and they go by quarters, and you have your destination of your markets that come and go, which is your Purdue. And as you can see, we have an increase of those who are flying over the years. Of course, if you look back in 2013 and you look at 2019, we most definitely are showing a market that is slowly rising. We have a cyclical nature with our testing as well as our training, and then also our influx of our residents that come in the winter versus the summer. And then, of course, they look at origin markets. This is why the Great Northwest is also something of interest inside of the Tacoma, Portland area, as well as Denver. But also, as you can see, we have a high concentration of those going to DC. Of course, you know why, and that's because of our partnerships with the military installations as well as the contractors that have to fly back and forth. Now, what are we looking at? I know that this is of interest again for the county, as you guys are a part of a large group that has most definitely stepped up to the plate to help us. The Small Community Air Service Development Program. We have just been told that they're not looking at providing those funds or releasing who they will be providing that to until probably January of 2020. It makes sense as the airline industry has over-obligated themselves in 2019. And I do believe that the airline industry has also over-obligated themselves for aircraft allocation in 2020. So going in, providing funds and letting us market all of 2020 for 2021 makes sense. We submitted an application for $488,000. We have non-airport cash committal of right at about $100,000, which is phenomenal. It's the first time that we've actually had people step up and say, this is what we're going to provide. And you guys did start it off with us. And as your support happened, even somebody else that already said they would support went and doubled up their support for us, which was amazing. And then we have others who have marketing committals right about $50,000. So again, great support from the county. And that also went to help with the grant application. And then also we're going to start setting more meetings with the potential air carriers. These are the actual folks that have, with the exception of one person who donated their own, they're an individual, but these are the companies that have provided us some form of support, both cash and non-committal cash, but also letters of support that help to justify the market that we're going after. And again, what we're committed to, as you can see, we do work with all of your staff and your team. I think that both the city and the county for us have been great partners as we go and develop. You can see that we do make sure to take our time with our partners with our military installations, and then we do focus on industry demands and changes. No doubt that we're about safety and security, but we're also focused on excellent customer service, and that's not just to you guys, but to also with one another, and that's what you'll see from our family at the airport. Being prepared and safe at all times is a huge concern, especially for national defense here today. with that, I know that was like speed dating with Gladys, but I will tell you that I'm going to again go in and say exactly what Jean said. This is a wonderful place to be. There's no doubt that wherever I go, I make sure people know where Yuma's at. I think that gateway of the Great Southwest is something that everybody should understand that we are and where we started back in the commerce in the 1800s. I think our history is rich. I think we have a very strong heritage community. And I do believe that we can be successful, but success is also by perspective. And I think that I know a lot of the times you may question what's going on, but just allow people to strategically complete and look at the visions that they have for each of their organizations. But the authority, on behalf of the authority and our team, we're very happy that we're able to serve you. And we hope that we're listening and hearing what you have to say as we make improvements at the airport.
Thank you. That was very thorough and very good. That was very good presentation.
There's my curtsy.
Any questions?
I always
from-
do that at the end. Sorry, it's like my signature curtsy. But yeah, we're very normal. I want everyone to know that too. I think that we need to laugh a little bit more and enjoy our days. Life is too short, and I'm very appreciative for everybody in this room. And even if you don't fly, please let me guilt you into flying out of Yuma. If not, at least go and eat at Brewers and enjoy. Or people watch or get onto the Wi-Fi and just take a day away from work. So if you have to have a business meeting, you have big tables so you can have a meeting. But please always consider us.
Thank you. You've done wonders with that airport, really. It's a pleasure to fly in and out of there.
And you can roll around on the ground too. That's why I tell people, put your face on the glass.
I
I'll
don't
wipe
know.
it later.
I don't know.
But
Nothing.
yeah, we're about everything that's in there. I have to touch and use too. So does that let you know anything? I always tell people to say, "Oh, it's a public place." I'm like, "Yeah, I have to use that public place." So I make sure it's like home and that it stays safe and that people know it's a place. It's just like the library. You know what I mean? It needs to be where everybody wants to go to.
All right.
Keep up the
Okay,
good
any
work.
questions? Any comments?
Just a comment. It's like I fly from Yuma every time I have to fly. And I am not one of those who will drive to Phoenix and am afraid of cancellations. It's always a great experience to fly out of Yuma and fly back into Yuma. So thank you for what you did.
Thank
It's
you
a
for your
great airport.
recommendations. I always appreciate that. Each of you guys come along and you guys see me in meetings, or when you're flying. I love it. You guys know my cell number. And you notice I don't, oh, there's the county supervisor, hang up. No, I don't do that. I most definitely am like, tell me what I can do. I love constructive criticism. I love criticism. Just means that we've got solutions that are underway.
We'll talk about
Again,
it.
I want to kudos to my team, who's wonderful. I also want to say this. Sorry, everybody, I have to do this. Go Gila Ridge Hawks football. All right. That's good for the county, for the school district. I mean,
Now
not
you
just 'cause-
overstep.
I know. Sorry, everybody. Order.
Wait. What position is your son?
My son is the quarterback,
Oh.
along with the other wonderful quarterback, which is Caleb Coda. So
You're
two
not a
wonderful.
proud mother then.
Yeah, they're doing
How
great.
did this get that way?
Sorry, everybody.
I don't
It's
know.
about the county. It is about the
Come
county.
on. You know,
There you
look.
go. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And a wonderful team as well. Hey, you can't win them all. Again, sometimes you have problems or solutions.
Do we
You
have
gotta
a
spread the
buzzer?
love.
That's all right. Push the
Set the
buzzer.
timer
Yeah, put
on.
the timer on there.
Raiders, that's okay. So.
Oh, thank you,
And then,
Gladys.
yeah,
Really,
absolutely.
thank you. And I'll make sure that I speak to San Luis. They should know that the clock is ticking. They need to know that.
Absolutely. We
all right.
appreciate you guys. And I do have to do one more. I'm sorry. I know you talk about community. It is my littlest one's 11th birthday. So he'd kill me if I didn't tell him happy birthday. So
Cool.
I make sure he watches this channel. So we're good.
Get the sound off.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Again,
All right.
please let us know what we can do for you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is why we don't have many PowerPoint presentations.
Yep. I apologize.
Oh, no, it was good.
No, it was great. That's a great one.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
We should wait so we can catch our breath here. That takes care, I hope, of number 4. She doesn't come back.
She will.
She's almost
be
to the
back.
outside the door. Once they leave, I'll be sure to move on. All right, well, let's catch our breath and move on. We will move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar are where the items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion, unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. There's a speaker form here that
Yeah, I was
refers
gonna
to
pull
item number
16.
6. Do you need me or do you want me to open up that item for you to say something? This is from Nidia Herrera. Are you gonna want to talk on that item? All right, then let me let me ask then that we
was
move
gonna
that item.
pull
Okay,
6.
all right. So items 1 through, let me see, what,
11.
11. There's items
Pull
1
number
through
11.
11 in the consent item. You want to pull item number 6, Supervisor Pancrasi, and you want to put item number 11, Supervisor McLeod?
Right.
Okay, can you make a motion in a second to do that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's motion and a second to approve the consent calendars, items 1 through 11, with the exception of item number 6 and item number 11. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The motion carries. This was by far the fastest part of this process. Item number 6, this is county administration, is to approve the Yuma County Shared Government Agreement between the Yuma County Board of Supervisors and the Yuma County Local Workforce Development Board. And item, from that same item, it would be B, the Yuma County Local Workforce Development Board bylaws, and C, the Local Workforce Development Board Conflict of Interest Policy. So they're asking us to approve those items, and I do see a speaker form for Ms. Nidia Herrera. Herrera?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you could have been a doctor.
No.
I was trying to hurry up.
All right, so before we begin, is there anything county administrator wants to say before we start this? No? Okay, Nidia,
Good
floor is
morning,
yours.
good morning, Chairman
Mr. Reyes.
Reyes and members of the board. I just want to make the time to be able to officially state that your staff of the county has helped us with Arizona Network YPIC in our recertification. That consisted of our bylaws, our shared agreement with the Board of Supervisors, as well as Arizona Network, and a conflict of interest. It's been a journey from May to now to, get these approved, and working closely together with your County Administrator Susan Thorpe. She has been really helpful in this journey of trying to get this certified. So I just want to make it official that I appreciate all the hard work and the staff of the Yuma County, as well as the attorney, Teresa Fox, that got involved, and other members. So I just want to make sure that we say thank you, and we're looking forward. We're only one step away from getting recertified, so we're really close. So
All
I
right.
just want to say thank you. Thank you, Susan.
All right. Well, we're glad it's not during, salary negotiation time, so it's fine. Say anything now, it'll be okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Is there sorry, hold on. Is there a question or is there a comment? No?
No,
Thank you, because
thank
I
you.
know it's a two-way street. I know that it's been a process that involves not only you and her, but, some of the board members and so forth. And I know it's been a struggle to get some of these things in place, but she's been giving me reports, and from her description of things, I mean, you guys, at some particular point in time, you stepped up and you started to work on these issues.
Oh, no. It's a good road to work with.
Right.
And I also want to say thank you that you guys have offered Arizona Works some of your county trainings. So that's been very helpful, because there's some fundings that we can't use towards those specific trainings. So you guys were able to allow us to partner with us and allow us, our staff, to come to that. So thank you.
All right, all these thank yous, and I need a motion. Motion to approve item number 6.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve item number 6 as presented. All those any discussion? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 was done. Item number 11, sitting as the Board of Directors of Mesa del Sol Improvement District number 9901, approve the dedication of the medians of Hensley Boulevard to the Yuma County for public road right-of-way, and authorize the Superintendent of Streets to execute a warranty deed conveying ownership to Yuma County. Supervisor McLeod?
Yeah, I just was curious, are we taking on a maintenance obligation with this? That's currently maintained by the association?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Josh Scott, Public Works Director. There's 3 distinct parcels in there where there were medians in all 3 of those. 2 have already been removed with Mesa del Sol Developments and been paved over. So the county's been maintaining those. This kind of legitimizes that maintenance they're already receiving. The 3rd piece closest to the frontage road, there is an existing median there. There's some dead landscaping in there. It's not really maintained by the improvement district. There's no water to the median to maintain any landscaping. So we'll take that in. It'll be very minor maintenance.
So this is,
I was going to say, Supervisor McLeod, this was one that came up during one of my community meetings. A lot of the issue came about where the median comes out and there's that new 24/7 gym right there. And it kind of cuts people off from trying to come out of the gym to go south onto Hensley to get onto the frontage road. So we
It's
kind of
probably because they're wired coming out of the gym, but
But anyway, just to kind of clean it up a little bit, shorten it up, make it safer for people to come onto the roadway and.
Well, if it benefits your district, I can't be for it, so.
on top of that, if it means more expenses, I can't be for it.
Okay, thank you, Josh, I appreciate
Is
it.
is this a process that people can follow? I mean, it seems to me it was really easy. I mean, normally for us to take something on a maintenance or something, it seemed like it was like a step, like 25 steps, and you had to do 12 first, reviews and all kinds
The
of stuff.
district, the improvement district for Mesa del Sol landscaping is remaining intact. It's
So
just
all you're
giving-
doing is just
giving
simply
these
take
small-
over in the operation of the district.
Those small pieces of
All right, okay.
That's fine, I'm good. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve item number 11 as presented. Any word from legal? No? Are they having their own? No problem? It's been cleared through legal, right? Okay, all right. So all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I wish it was that simple with the building on the other side of the street.
Aye.
Yeah. Don't we all?
All right. The next item here is discussion and action items, and this one will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. And the first item is human resources. Approve the addition of nationwide HSA option administered by the Health Equity Program to the Yuma County Employee Benefit Trust, effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the Human Resource Director to sign the necessary documentation. Present will be Jim Killer, Program Director for Nationwide Retirement. He seems like a familiar face to me. I've seen him a few times. And maybe Jason Nurse, Regional Sales Director with Health Equity and oh, it was a call-in.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good
Unfortunately,
luck
he
with
won't
the
be able to
call-in.
make it, yeah.
Considering all the audio problems we're having.
Yeah,
So anyway, your name and?
Yes, good morning, Chairman Maris, members of the board, Myra Alexandria, Benefits Manager. Today we're here to discuss an enhancement to our high deductible health plan health savings account. And with me I have Jim Keeler, who will go ahead and overview and discuss the options and kind of get an overview of the plan. And I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you very much. Well, Chairman, Board of Supervisors, County staff, thank you for your time this morning. Jim Keeler, Program Director with Nationwide. Nationwide currently administers the county's 457 plan for employees and participants. And we now have a new nationwide partnership with Health Equity as well. And today we handed out some materials so that you can have a better understanding of how popular HSAs are becoming in the market. The government recently made a notification that they'll be increasing the deductions allowed into the plan for 2020, allowing individuals to save even more into the account to utilize throughout the year for any type of medical expenses on a pre-tax basis, as well as now with long-term care premiums as well. And if the individuals don't utilize all the funds within the plan, they can invest them in mutual funds to hopefully get more growth over their working careers. And upon separation from service, if the monies aren't utilized, they can always be put into an IRA as well. So this is really just another piece to help individuals with their retirement planning. The relationship that Health Equity and Nationwide have will not change any of the benefits that are currently underway with the plan, but will allow the participant to expand the investment opportunities they have available to them, will increase the cash equivalent rate that's being paid to them from currently 10 basis points to 50 basis points. As you know, individuals can use their card when they go see a doctor and can utilize that right there in the field. But if they do not utilize it now, they have more options to invest, covering several different asset classes so that they can build a well-diversified portfolio, hopefully getting a better return on their money during their career. And if they need assistance investing, just like in their 457, they can always utilize the local servicing representative, Nonoska Metcalf, but we also have target date funds for those individuals that just need help with investing. So this is a great benefit. We're very happy to be in this new partnership. We're very interested to bring this to your attention at Yuma County, and you see some very good pieces that are talking about the benefits of the plan for those individuals that have the high health deductible option. If there's any questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to do so. And we're looking, once we approve, we can send the documents to the county for review. There is no new contract, since you already have a contract with Health Equity. It's basically a memorandum of understanding that will be enhancing the investment fund lineup available to those participants that utilize the benefit. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions? Without getting into details,
Nice addition.
yeah, without getting into details, do we have anyone on a 457 plan? We do? Wow. Well, without getting into details. All right. Well, good. It's another tool, and it's a good tool because part of the problem with those health savings accounts is that if you don't use it, then you're at the end of the year sort of put in a situation where you have to buy stuff just to make sure that you
Utilize it, yeah.
utilize it, and it's really not the best way to deal with it.
Or with the health savings account, you are able to roll that money over.
Right.
That one, the one you're speaking with, Chairman Reyes, is a flexible spending.
It's a flexible spending
Yeah,
account.
that one doesn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Jim, I'd like to thank you for your participation. I see it all of the conferences, and of course, you helped me out.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I've always appreciated that.
Glad to
Thank
be
you.
here. It's wonderful to visit. Thank you very much.
Okay, after this love fest, is there a motion?
So moved. We need a motion.
So moved. Yeah, there's a motion here by Supervisor Porches. Is there a second? Supervisor Pancrase seconds the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I did not expect any less.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a nice day.
And thank you, Mrs. Alexander. Item number 2, Development Services, Planning and Zoning Division. Request for modifications, D2, yeah. Request for modifications of subdivision regulations for the proposed Las Palmeras subdivision, which is Pyramid Construction, Inc. Request for modifications from the Yuma County subdivision regulations for the proposed Las Palmeras subdivision consisting of 20 lots on 3.39 acres. Yeah, assessor parcel number 632-50-50-079 zone low density residential located on the southwest corner of the intersection of Bond Avenue and 4th Street in Yuma, Arizona. Is that even in the county? No, I'm just kidding. And I do have, I think, a speaker form. Is it for this one? No, rezoning number 1? This is not rezoning number 1, is it? No, this is a modification. Okay, I just want to be mindful that the Marine Corps Air Station wants to talk about something. So I'll keep it in here. So staff, up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fernando Villegas, Senior Planner, presenting a request for 4 modifications to the subdivision regulations for the proposed Las Palmeras subdivision. Modification number 1, the developer is requesting not to improve a major collector road on the north limit of the subdivision. The engineering division is recommending approval of this request since there are no road improvements along the alignment of the irrigation canal, as you can see here in the area view. The area view shows that there are no road alignments. We only have an irrigation canal on the north side. The next slide shows the location of the modification. The subdivision layout shows the developer is not proposing the major collector road on the north side. And here we have a picture looking west from the northeast corner of the existing irrigation canal. Modification number 2, the developer is requesting not to improve a residential collector road on the west side of the subdivision. The engineering division is recommending approval of this request since there's an existing irrigation canal and no street improvements are located to the north or south. The vicinity map shows the location. Subdivision shows the developer is not proposing a residential collector road on the west side. And the area view shows the location of the irrigation canal and no street improvements to the north or south. This is a picture of the irrigation canal looking north from the west property line of the subdivision. Modification number 3, the developer is requesting not to improve Bong Avenue as a residential road in accordance with Public Works Standards number 2-050 on the east side of the subdivision. The engineering division recommends denial. However, the developer may improve Bong Avenue using a different standard 2-100 from the southern boundary of the subdivision to the entrance of Bond Mobile Estates with a turnaround. The vicinity map shows the location of Bong Avenue and the area needs to be improved. Subdivision layout shows the area that needs to be improved. This is the public works standard that is required. And this is the standard number 2-100. This standard has no sidewalks or curb and gutter. The area view shows the location of modification number 3. And the last, we have a picture of Bang Avenue looking south. Here, the engineering division is requesting a turnaround for the subdivision. Modification number 4, to allow a block length longer than 1,200 feet. The Yuma County subdivision regulations do not allow a block length longer than 1,200 feet. In this case, because the developer is now proposing to improve a road along the west property line, the block length is about 1,900 feet. The engineering division recommends approval of this modification by providing traffic calming measures along 4th Street. Here we have the length of the road, and the developer has agreed to provide traffic calming measures. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of modifications 1, 2, and 4, and recommends denial of modification number 3, not to improve Bang Avenue on the east side of the subdivision. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends that the developer may improve Bang Avenue using the standard 2-100 from the south boundary of the subdivision to the north entrance of Bang Mobile Estates and provide a turnaround on the north limit of the subdivision. Chairman, this concludes the staff presentation.
Any questions before I bring in the applicant? No? Will the applicant please come forward? I'm going to open the public hearing section of this.
Not a public hearing.
It's not required.
It's not going to
Not a
require
public
one?
hearing.
It's going to become one anyway. Go ahead.
Good morning. Francisco Galindo with Yuma Territorial Engineering, 1420 South Fifth Avenue. As far as the modifications, we agree with the recommendations from staff. We plan to do the traffic calming devices. And
which are what?
Speed tables, speed bumps,
Speed bumps?
just slow down speed because we have a straight shot all the way from Vaughn to Avenue C. At the same time, it's a better design than having 2 cul-de-sacs right now. At the end, on the east side of 4th Street, it's a dead end, no turnaround. People have to probably drive into private driveways in order to turn around. There's no secondary emergency access. Now we're going to be providing secondary emergency access, and so better traffic movement.
So is the answer that you're in agreement with the one that had to be modified to the R200, whatever that was? Is that what you're saying? You're saying
I'm saying that yes, we're in agreement with the staff recommendations to provide the calming measures.
Yes.
Yeah, but
And the other one on Vaughn Avenue, we're in agreement to pave the road as requested per standard 210, I believe.
Yeah, 210.
Yes.
So, okay, now let me just back up a little bit. One of them was 3 of them were basically, recommended to be approved, but there was a difference between the ones that the staff was talking about and the ones that the Planning and Zoning Commission
That's what the
we're talking about.
commission recommends.
One was the length, right?
So the
And
motion is-
you agree that
as recommended by the commission.
if we allow you to extend that length from 1,200 to 1,900 or something, that you will provide calming measures.
That's
That's
correct.
right?
Yes.
The other one was the improvement on bond, which is still there, but it's reduced to a different standard. Is that correct? So, and you're agreeing with that you will do a different standard, which is a lower standard.
That is correct. We agree with that.
Okay. So, any questions from the applicant? No?
Well, I do, Mr. Reyes.
Comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why are we recommending improvements without sidewalks? It would seem that sidewalks are typically desirable.
Mr. Chairman, engineering division noticed that Bang Avenue is not improved with sidewalks. So we're recommending a public works standard that is more compatible with what is existing along Bang Avenue right now.
So that would be the only area that would have sidewalks.
Yeah, if you did it.
Across, if
Yes,
you did
exactly,
that, right?
yes.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Francisco. Any questions? No? Thank you.
I have a question, but it doesn't have to, my question is, are these going to have, is this subdivision going to have city sewer and city water?
Mr. Chairman, the answer is yes.
Good, thank you.
So there's
That's all I know.
a pre-annexation agreement or an annexation agreement? Or is
That's
it an
all in
island?
the BNC Colonia, isn't it?
It is.
No, it's not a county island, but yes, the city's gonna provide water and sewer.
But it's in the Colonia, so
Yeah.
it's already, the agreement's
already
already
put all that
there.
sewer in.
according
Thank
to-
you, I just,
All right.
If I may add,
Remember.
I didn't
that is
know.
correct. There's an existing water line that ends, it's a 4-inch water line that ends on the east side of 4th Avenue, the existing paved street.
I'm gonna,
So it ends right there.
Yeah.
We're going to continue with a 6-inch line, continue all the way to the east on Vaughn Avenue, then it continues south along Vaughn to 5th, and then it's gonna go east all the way to 5th and
But-
connect to an existing 80-inch line at that point. So
Thank
it's
you.
gonna be a big benefit to the whole community.
yeah,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's.
I'm gonna
that's
wait
what I
like
need.
30 seconds for the supervisor Porches to tell us, oh, that's great, this is what you did when you were back there.
Yeah. Look how forward thinking.
You got forward thinking that was.
I just see that area without sidewalks.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Francisco. We waited at 30 seconds, it didn't work.
No
Anyway,
compliment.
no compliments. Holy. All right, anything else? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the modifications as presented with the changes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission, or in this case, the recommendations as adjusted or as presented
By the planning commission.
by the planning.
Amended by the Planning and
By
Zoning.
the Planning and Zoning Commission, okay? Anybody else has any questions, any comments? If not, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Staff, for the next time, put the discussion and possible action on the legislative items at the end of the agenda so that we don't sort of break the process here by discussing something like this in the middle of the zoning commissions, okay? All right? Huh?
We can move it to the end now if you would like.
We're gonna do it like this. It's like this. There's really no reason, but it just sort of works better when it's at the end of all this, changes and sending, we go from planning and zoning commission to something like this, and it just sort of breaks up the way that it's presented. So, okay, we'll go to item number 3. We'll get that out. And this discussion and possible action regarding the following legislative items: update regarding any legislative proposals relating to the CSA Summit or the 2020 state legislative session, an update regarding strategies relating to federal legislative priorities, and item C is discussion and possible action to authorize the Yuma County Board of Supervisors to sign a letter of request to the United States Senators Martha McSally and Kirsten Sinema, and the United States Congressmen Paul Gosar and Raul Grijalva requesting funding for the permanent relocation of the Yuma County Fairgrounds. And item D, discussion and possible action to authorize the Yuma County Board of Supervisors to sign a letter of request to the senators and representatives from Arizona Legislative Districts number 4 and number 13, requesting funding for the permanent relocation of the Yuma County Fairgrounds. Okay, Paul.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
morning.
Thank you. Paul Melcher, Director of Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Chairman, before I get into the 2 letters of support, I do have an update that we've provided for you, some talking points, at least in summary. So the guest worker bill that we've been anticipating for a couple of years finally dropped, and it's in the Judiciary Committee right now, awaiting a hearing and a vote this coming Wednesday. What I provided for you was just some general talking points because I wanted to give the board a sense of what the bill was trying to achieve. I could summarize it in these 3 ways. So the first title deals with status of workers. So the goal there is to get workers who are legal in the United States so they can trust consistently that those workers will be able to come back and forth to be able for farmers. The next one is to streamline H-2A. There have been some bills and some actions administratively so far through the Bureau of Labor that have streamlined H-2A, but these really solidify those. And then the last one is to promote documented workers being available for farmers in the United States. So as we look at Title I, it's really to get those workers who are not documented currently to apply for and achieve a certified ag worker status. And so that doesn't imply anything more than it's just making sure that those workers who are in the United States are recognized legally. It does provide them a path to a green card, but it also makes the certified ag workers work toward that certification, and it's not something that's granted immediately. So a worker can continue to come to the United States under the CAWS, or that worker can begin applying for the green card and go through that process. Title II ensures ag workforce for the future. And what that does is it makes sure that we get rid of the paper finally. All the applications go through one portal. There's not a need for repeated applications year after year, so that a farm worker coming in who wants to work for a particular farmer has to only file one application and that would be good for 3 years. It also increased the number of year-round visas that were available, so that right now ag workers have to touch base. So they're essentially only utilized 8 out of the 12 months for which they're permitted to be able to work. So that would carry over for 3 years continually, so that you could have the farm and workers available on a year-round basis for at least 3 years. The ag and dairy are going to split those full-time visas. Moving forward, that's really one of the points of contention, is that it's not a sufficient amount of visas to cover all of that. And I'll touch a little bit more on that at the end. And then the last one is e-verification. So once the process has gone through and the bill is instituted the provisions under Title I and Title II, then all farmers would have to comply with e-verification. So you get all the farm workers documented, you get them some sort of legal status, then that legal status would be verifiable through e-verify, and that would help also curtail some of the issues that we've had with immigration, and it addresses that. So what I would like to say is that there are a lot of pros and there's some cons out there already in relation to those who've been supporting it. I haven't asked each of our individual senators or representatives yet, because it's still in the Judiciary Committee. But just to give you a sense of it, there are 300 ag organizations in the U.S. Chamber that are in support, but in opposition is the U.S. Farm Bureau still. U.S. Farm Bureau asked the simple question: does this provide enough ag workers each year for each commodity to enter the United States to conduct operations? And their answer is not yet. What they'd like to see is removal of some of these caps for the visas, so that farmers are able to get the numbers of farm workers that they need, instead of having this be a phased and integrated step in there. So I don't think it's really opposition to the program necessarily. It needs to be brought in to be more flexible to allow farmers to get the number of farm workers necessary. So, Mr. Chairman, that's just a short summary. What my plan is on this bill is to, once it gets out of the judiciary, to report back just to see how it moves forward, see what the version of that bill actually gets introduced in the House, and provide those updates to you.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Paul, do we have anybody from Yuma from Arizona on judiciary? Anybody, the whole
Supervisor
state?
Pancrase, I'd have to check. I'm not sure about judiciary.
Okay.
And I think that the borough does not, in the current environment, an incremental process is probably more likely than an overall overhaul, the way they're thinking. I mean, there's not going to be open anything in that current Congress. From my perspective, there's not going to be a bill opening up any kind of the program that is immigration related that's going to be open-ended. It's going to be quotas. I mean, that's just the way it looks like to me. So, I mean, maybe they ought to realize that you take your wins, you take your battles, you win a few battles, and you hope the war is still out there, but you're winning when you're moving the process forward. And this has been on the books for a while. I mean, it's been ongoing for a while. So to me, that's encouraging. The fact that it's already a judiciary and that it's moving, it's a good sign for something that could happen. And I think next year is going to be one of those years where everybody's going to want to claim that something's being done. All right. Anything else on that? No.
Not any state or federal legislation.
No. That was it. You're not going to talk about the
yes. I'll go
the fair break.
I couldn't forget that.
Well,
so,
you see,
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, in relation to the fairgrounds, you've seen in the newspapers and from your updates from the county administrator that we've been working to a two-pronged solution to the Yuma County Fairgrounds dilemma regarding the Midway. So the first solution is a short-term relocation of the Midway from the southeastern portion of the fairgrounds over to the west parking lot. We're looking at some funding solutions there that may or may not involve the federal and state legislature, but when we looked at it overall, when we're looking at an ask of $102 million, we really thought, as part of the two committees that have been working on these solutions, that since this is something of a federally driven request of the fairgrounds, that we want to have some kind of federal solution. So in combination with that, there's also been identified approximately $400 million in additional revenues at the state level that would probably go to one-time budget issues this year as part of the state legislative considerations. So the committees thought that we could do, this is a two-tiered operation, make a local ask at the state level to figure out if there's any way that the state could participate and cover some of those relocation costs, but ultimately pursue a federal solution either through congressional action or maybe even through some other options to get the rest of it, depending on what we could work out. The $102 million would be for the complete build out, complete expansion of the fairgrounds into what would be a community event center. But it depends on, you know, as you said, if we could get a certain amount of money to at least get phase one out of that, to get that completed, phase two could be addressed in the future. But I think when we're looking at it overall, the ask is to ask for the complete relocation and then figure out how the funding can be accommodated from there. What I would anticipate after sending out these two letters is my follow-up would be to call each of the congressional offices to see what their initial response are. The letters are detailed specifically to our local representatives first, and then build that coalition around those and to see what issues we would have to address to further extend that coalition and to get that support.
I've only got one sort of, well, many comments, but just one that I like to focus on a little bit. And that is it really necessary or is it really wise to state that the F-35B costs approximately $115 million? Are we trying to make a point that it would cost less to move the fairgrounds than one jet?
Mr. Chairman, that's exactly the point. You know, for the cost of one F-35, the fairgrounds could be relocated and that would be the maximum build out. So it's really to put the emphasis on, I know it sounds very simplistic, but that is the solution, is simply divert the funds for one F-35, achieve this, and then you've got a long-term solution that meets the future needs of MCAS Yuma. You've eliminated that operational impediment, and you've also provided and ensured the community agricultural and continuity for having that fairgrounds in a different location that allows them to operate as well.
I mean, I tend to believe that telling Congress, okay, look, you can do this for less than this, you know, especially when it comes to defense funds, it's not really, well, President Trump can do that, but most of the people who do appropriations don't necessarily, I mean, that may seem simplistic, but it's also, you know, sort of telling them, are you dumb enough not to understand this? And I don't think they like that. I mean, it's
I don't phrase it that way, Chairman Reyes.
Well,
Yes.
okay. Well, we have someone from Marine Corps Station. We'll ask her that question. Is it better? No.
No, in fact, Mary Ellen Finch, the representative from MCAS, has been one of the integral partners in developing the talking points. We had issued these original talking points that I've incorporated as part of the letter back when, it was about March or April, when several of our local representatives had presented this to a couple of the senators and some of the congressional representatives as a talking point, but now we've really consolidated this effort into looking at it from a...
Maybe we ought to tell them that, you know, the longer it takes, the higher the bill, the higher the cost, because I remember the Port of Entry in San Luis being a $67 million project 10, 12 years ago. It is now $248 million. And they're arguing about the fact that it's being reduced to 165 or something like that. I mean, it's just incredibly, it's incredible. It's not just inflation, it's just the process now. The fact is that, you know, it costs a lot of money. I mean, when I think of paying $13 million for a site, you know, I'm thinking, where is this? In the middle of Phoenix or Scottsdale or where? But the fact is that when it goes through a process and it's a federal process, it has a tendency to increase the cost of almost anything.
Mr. Chairman, and to your point, that's 160 acres at X, you know, amount of dollars, whatever the purchase is. So it's really is meant to be a long-term solution. It's not to be a stopgap. You know.
Are we talking too much about this?
No.
We're okay? Okay. All right. I just, you know, want to make sure clear, you know, we get clearance from, you know, attorneys. All right. Any questions about this? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to support this, sending those two letters.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and second to send those two letters, authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign those two letters. Now, A reminder,
Oh, for the
it
owner.
takes five, we will, all five of us will sign, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Thank you,
opposed?
Paul,
Motion
for all
carries.
your
Thank you,
work
Paul.
on that.
You're welcome.
All right. That it?
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Then we'll go back to planning and zoning, and the agenda, and a full legal description of the property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. These are full presentations, so they required a regular public hearing, in where staff will make a full presentation of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, and action by the Board of Supervisors. The first one is a Development Service Planning and Zoning Division Major Amendment Case, number 2019-PA-01, Vianey Vega, agent for Margaret and Delbert Johnson Trust, requests a major amendment to the Yuma County 2020 Comprehensive Plan to change the land use designation of a parcel totaling 7.57 gross acres in size from agricultural rural preservation to rural density residential. Assessors parcels number 721-28-029, located at 3220 West County 13th Street, Yuma, Arizona, located in the 65-69 decibel noise zone. Okay, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fernando Villegas, Senior Planner, presenting Mayor Amendment Case number 2019 PA01. I just want to let the board know that the applicant changed their request during the Planning and Zoning Commission. The request is now to split the property into two new parcels. And I'm gonna continue with the presentation. The vicinity map shows that all surrounding parcels have the same land use designation, agricultural rural preservation. And the subject property is located, as stated, in the 65 to 70 decibel noise zone. The noise zone is the reason why the mayor amendment is required. Any land use change with an increase in density, residential density within the noise zone requires a mayor amendment. The subject property and most of the surrounding properties are zoned RA40. In the vicinity of the subject property, we have 20 residential lots that range in size from 1/4 of an acre to 3.34 acres in size. These parcels were created between 1966 to 1985. We have 3 subdivisions were developed in the area during the 1970s. Green Acres number 2, zone R112. Green Acres number 1 and Deborah Jean States, zone R140. We also have three rezoning cases that were approved in the vicinity of the subject property between 1990 and 1998. Some properties were rezoned from RA40 to SSB2, R140, and R120. Next, we have an area view of the subject property and adjacent properties. The area view shows the subject property and existing uses on the property. The main residence is located on the southwest corner of the subject property. A manufactured home approved as a second dwelling unit located on the west side of the property. 3 special use permits have been approved since 1992 to allow the second dwelling. The most recent special use permit 14-01 was approved on June 2nd, 2014 with a time limit of 10 years. The site plan, this is the new site plan submitted by the applicant. Now the applicant wants to create 2 parcels, 1 parcel for the main residence and a second parcel for the existing manufactured home. Next, we have a picture of the existing main residence looking north from County 13th Street. Another view of the access to the main residence and the existing garage. A view of the manufactured home from County 13th Street. For the mayor amendment, we had a 60 days public information and participation process. During the 60 days, we had a neighborhood meeting. 6 people were in attendance at this meeting, none in opposition to the mayor amendment. Staff received 4 letters in opposition for this request from MCAS Yuma, Yuma County Airport Authority, Office of the Attorney General, and the Yuma County Chamber of Commerce. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of this request, the amendment, because the amendment will allow for residential development that is consistent and doesn't negatively impact the existing residential character of the area. And the change will not be detrimental or destructive to the existing rural agricultural character of the area. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the staff presentation.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So what's the purpose of the split? To formally accept that second residence on that property, or they plan to put more homes?
Chairman, the request will allow the applicant to request rezoning to create two parcels. If the rezoning gets approved, they will create two parcels, one for the main residence, which is going to be about 2 acres in size, and another parcel, which is going to be 5.5 acres in size for the manufactured home.
Would there be the ability to add another home?
No, if they request zoning, a zoning district that doesn't allow them to split in the future. For example, SR2 zoning or SSB2 zoning for the main residence and SSB5 or SR5 for the manufactured home.
So there would be no increase in density?
There will be no increase in density, and that's what the applicant is proposing. Because they notice that the letters in opposition are because of the increase in density inside the noise zone.
But under the conditions that they're applying for, that would not occur, correct?
Right now, they're just trying to get the land use designation that will allow them to apply for the rezoning.
Right, I understand. I'm looking forward. So the result of the rezoning, if this were successful and the rezoning were successful, would there be an increase in density?
No, if they apply for a zoning district that doesn't allow them to divide the property in the future.
So they'd have to come back for an additional rezoning of the 5 acres, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
John, will you explain the letter from the Attorney General, please, and what that means and how that impacts this? And if they've changed it, if that impacts it? You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the letter from the Attorney General's office is kind of prospectively sent. If it was if there was an approval of this major amendment and it was not in conformance with, I believe it's in Title 28, 84, 81J, which it may not be. However, then the Attorney General would come in after that approval and investigate and determine whether or not it's in compliance. And if it isn't, they would give you approximately 30 days to either pull that approval, undo it, or I believe they would take action legal against the county to do so.
What kind of legal action can they take?
I guess they're doing a legal action to determine that that was the use was non-conforming and it would go away.
But that was addressing splitting into 3, which they're not doing under the current request, correct?
Well, again, it was prospectively. It was a jump ahead. Usually you don't have that happen until after there's an approval. And keep in mind that under that 28, 84, 81J, that if there was a mutual agreement between the military air base and the county, that it would be determined, even if it really wasn't in conformance, it would still be in conformance at that point. But you don't have that today, I don't believe. So what would happen is you could just change the date on the letter from the Attorney General's office to one that occurs after today, if you approve it, and then we'll react to that.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
It refers to splitting into 3, but that's not what they're doing, correct?
Well, I think Maggie wants to answer that, but I mean, I guess the issue is not, I guess the issue is how many parcels you split it up on, if we look at it that way, but I think the issue is building within or expanding within the noise zone.
Right, Mr. Chairman, the issue today is the increase in density that will result in changing the land use designation from agriculture, rural residential. Is it rural residential?
Rural preservation.
From the current land use designation of agriculture, rural preservation to suburban density residential. That is what's occurring today on paper. What comes after really doesn't make a difference as far as the Attorney General's letter is concerned, because the current, even though they have 2 existing residences on the parcel, and the intent is to create 2 parcels, which will allow 1 residence on each parcel, there will technically be no increase in density as far as zoning is concerned, but as far as land use is concerned, there will be. I know it's confusing, but
It's not. It's not. It's just.
But the Attorney General's letter refers to 3 parcels.
Correct. That was the original intent of the applicant, to create 3 parcels.
Right, okay.
The current intent is to create 2 parcels. It still results technically in an increase in density.
Mr. Chair.
Well, technically.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
question.
Sure.
Maggie, the mobile home has a 10-year life. So what happens after that 10 years? Does it have to go away?
Mr. Chairman, there is a manufactured home on the property that was approved with a special use permit with a time limit of 10 years. They do have the option of applying for another special use permit to continue to allow that manufactured home on the parcel. But that would have to be something that comes before the Board of Supervisors for approval.
So, well, go ahead. Sorry. Continue.
Mr. Chair, and John, what is your opinion that the Attorney General will do, whether we put it in 3 lots or 2 lots?
I don't know until
Mr. Chairman?
we give him notice.
Yes.
That is not for consideration today.
I know. It's part of the question. It's part of the decision-making process.
It is part of the decision making.
For her.
For me, it is.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Hold on, one at a time.
We don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
You know, their intent is to enforce what they believe are, violations of the statute, or at least that's the way they look at it. I don't think it has a lot to do with, whether it was 2 or 3 parcels. It's just increase in density, the permanent increase in density, because right now you have a temporary increase in density. That, 10 years from now, we would have to consider, or however years are left, we would have to consider extending over time.
Maybe 5 more years.
Yeah, or something like that. But at this particular time, what's in front of us is a major plan amendment, which requires for us to consider increasing the density of an area that falls within a certain decibel zone that does not allow that to happen based upon statute. That's what the Attorney General is saying right now, and that's what the Marine Corps is arguing, that at this particular time, technically speaking, that's what you're asking to do. In reality, they won't, because you split it into 2 parcels and there's already 2 residences, it really won't increase the density. But it will set that so that there's no need for an extension, that you would be able to build a house on the other side, or, that's basically what I see it, right? Okay, now I'm sorry. You?
I had a question with Donna. Excuse me. With the change presentation.
Mr. Chairman, Mary Ellen here.
Or Mary Ellen, I'm
Mary
sorry.
Ellen Finch is present from the Marine Fire Station.
My question is
Not
does
getting there
this,
yet.
since the change from 3 to 2, does that affect your opinion or y'all's desire as far as approving it or not approving it?
Mr. Chair, Mary Ellen Finch, Marine Corps Air Station, Yuma. It does not, because it is still an increase in residential density. The intention of the major amendment is to rezone it SSB 2. So even if the applicant's intent at this time is only to rezone it into 2 lots, one of those lots, if it's zoned SSB 2, could be further split. And we have this, I kind of call it the chicken and the egg syndrome, because the rezoning comes first, and the rezoning while it does not implicitly allow residential development, what happens is it's rezoned, and then the applicant comes with a special use permit saying, I'd like to split this lot and develop it into 2 lots and add an extra home. And then the board is faced with the decision of, they've got a lot that's zoned 2-acre minimum, and they've got Prop 207, which says a homeowner should be able to do what they want to develop with that. And so you're kind of caught in a rock and a hard spot. I did speak to the Attorney General, Paul Katz, last week. He called me. He had a family emergency. He was actually planning on coming. He did say that if the board, he said I could share this, so this is what he told me. If the board approved this, that the Attorney General's office would move to vacate the decision. And then he did encourage the county attorney to reach out and discuss this with him if they had any questions. But that's what he stated to me last week. I think Thursday is when he called me. Our biggest concern is right now there's 1 residence and then there's 1 temporary special use permit for the manufactured home, which expires in 24. If this were approved with the increased density, we now have at a minimum of 2 lots and perhaps more if it could be divided into 3. Now you've got 3. And then with the influx of accessory dwelling units we've had, you could essentially have 6 residences, which in effect makes it 1 home per 1 acre. So it goes from 1, on the books home to 6 officially recorded residences. And it's in the 65 decibel noise contour. We know those other neighborhoods, they've been around since, well, before all the noise contours were developed. And all the other residences that were briefed by Fernando were before the ARS was enacted in 2000. So that's our main concern, is always increased residential density in those noise contours. We get a lot of complaints. It's just trying to maintain the health and safety and make sure people are aware of that concern.
Okay.
If there's no actual increase in density, where's the
potential? She's
The
mentioning the
rezoning,
potential.
that's the thing. If once it's rezoned, then there's the potential for increased density.
With Prop 207.
Are we dealing with that right now? I mean, aren't we creating a sort of a regulation? I'm sorry. I'm talking to Maggie, who's right behind you right there. She's got those snakeskin boots, so be careful.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the idea that Prop 207 would give them any additional rights is misstated.
I know, I know. But she's talking about potential. She's saying if they found a very willing board, it could happen. But again, you call it, I think, the proliferation of accessory dwellings. We're dealing with that. And, I think that the last time we had one of these cases, we actually talked about, look, we don't want to be put in a situation where that's even considered and brought to us. Although it's going to be a little difficult to get to it, I think we are moving towards avoiding that particular conflict or that particular potential.
Mr. Chairman, before I address the possible text amendment to the zoning ordinance, the applicant, I think the intent is to, it's the pointer.
We've been having technical difficulties.
Rezone this smaller parcel to SR2 or SSP2, and then the larger parcel would be rezoned to a zoning district that allows 5-acre minimum. So in the future, if it's rezoned to SSP5 or SR5, there would not be the ability to split that parcel without applying for another rezoning.
So what you're saying is the potential is very slim.
trigger then the state statute.
It would
No,
have to.
Mr. Chairman, what triggers the state statute is the change in the land use designation.
The density.
Because if the board approves the change in the land use designation, a future rezoning request would be in compliance with the comprehensive plan.
I know it would be in compliance. It doesn't mean it would get approved.
Correct. As far as the proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance, staff has drafted language for a new zoning district that may not allow for the provision of accessory dwelling units as a special use permit. We are still working on drafting the text and running it through legal counsel and then bringing it before the board and
Yeah.
back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review, and then back to the board for
For the
your
final
ultimate approval.
So that would be 3 to 6 months, wouldn't it, at least?
A minimum, yes.
Right. Well, I mean, I just want to make sure that whatever decision we made today about this particular case, the fact is that we're working towards a situation, or we're working towards a situation where that would become an increasingly difficult thing to do, if not almost an impossible thing to do, especially in this particular zoning areas. Because I think what happens right now, when you say that certain things are allowed, when we make those changes, well, that's what's allowed right now. People are allowed to apply for a major plan amendment to do exactly that. So it's the same situation. This is an allowed process in statute because, it requires the board approval, and it's getting much more complicated to get it done. But it's still an allowed process. And as long as people, need to get some of this stuff or want some of this stuff done, we need to make it clear that unless there's some overriding reason that that you need to get something like this done, this would be a highly difficult process to get through, to get it, especially considering the improved relationship between MCAS and the attorneys, between the Attorney General's office and us, trying to make, something workable that isn't going to put us as a county and the taxpayers in a situation where we have to defend something that, we should have known at the beginning wasn't defensible. Which to me, the term vacate, what does that mean? Vacate. I know what it means, but what I mean is, what is that the process they have to follow legally?
If we just simply go back to the way it was.
I know what it means, but I mean, okay.
It would vacate your folks'
Decision.
board approval and decision. And then it would no longer
state
cease
would
to exist,
override
and
it.
as things are today, they would continue to be.
So that would get us into a situation where we'd be needing to argue that it doesn't apply. That we can actually make that decision and it should stay. And that would get us into a court case to make sure that it gets decided by somebody else.
Correct.
All right, okay, board. You get to make the easy one.
In view of being threatened by the state.
Oh, so do I, but, we're gonna leave that to the end here. I'm going to open this, I haven't even opened it to a public hearing yet, and we haven't listened to the applicant yet. Are there any more questions that you guys have for staff? Okay, I'm sure we'll have some more. I'm opening this up to a public hearing. I'm letting the applicant step up, or his representative step up and give us their view of it, I guess.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vianney Vega. I'm with Vega & Vega Engineering. I'm representing the property owners.
We have opposition.
Technically, we already got all the details on the case, and what I would like to just stress is that when we went to the Planning and Zoning Commission and we got all these letters of opposition, the original plan was to split this property in 3 parcels, and the main purpose of these letters and denials was based on density. And they're not talking about the density they're talking about is additional residents, and that's the concern. That's the concern when you're doing this amendment. The concern is that they're protecting is there's no more residents, there's no more public that can be affected by this change. Well, this change that we're requesting now, that change to 2 parcels only, the 2 residents are existing. They are there. And they'll remain there. The only thing that we're doing is we're splitting the property. Now we're creating. My client is going to keep the permanent residence, and then he's going to have the opportunity to sell his other parcel to the occupant of that mobile home. So that's technically what we're doing. We're not increasing the density. The density is there already. We're just allowing the right to my client to be able to sell that other parcel if he needs to. Now, the potential of having additional residents, there's no potential, because once you do the rezoning, as staff mentioned, we have a 2-acre parcel that is going to be rezoned 2 acres. So once you have that zoning in place, there was no more splitting on that. The 5-acre parcel will be rezoned 5 acres. There'll be no more split on that. The code allows only to have a single residence on each of the parcels. So we have 2 residents after the rezoning. We have 2 residents before the major amendment. So there's no actual increase in density. We're only allowing the property owner to have the possibility of selling the property if he desires to or he needs to. I mean, it's a split on, it's a paper split. We can call it like that right now. There's no additional density. There's no more potential houses to be built. There's no, because it's going to be controlled with the zoning. So technically, there's no additional residents that are going to be, any of these 2 parcels are going to be able to build that what is there right now before the major amendment.
Who's living on that special permit, on that house, on that mobile home? The special
There's a potential buyer. I mean, they're interesting, so they're not.
You know
related.
that this, if it ever goes through, you know that the first thing that's going to happen is that if they ever came to renew that special permit, you know, it wouldn't, the chances of it being approved would be slim to none. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna be here, right? I mean, who knows? But essentially, this is, you know, this is a situation with density. We understand that, but it's also, you know, the potential. And that's what, you know, the Marine Corps is referring to. The potential is still there unless we change the rules, and that's what we're doing. We're changing the rules so that that potential is really very, very small, very slim. But we're not there yet. So I'm not sure. You know, every once in a while, I keep telling people when they come up here, make sure you make an argument that supports your case. I don't know if it's really supportive to say that, you know, that if the gentleman wants to sell the property, you know, he'll be able to sell it because now he split it in 2. I understand what you're saying. But that means that, you know, there will be no control. It will be controlled by somebody else, who then again may build one house and then try to get an accessory
Zoning
building.
will be in place. So once the zoning is in place, I mean, there's only one residence allowed on the parcel.
Unless you have accessory dwelling, which is what happened in the original one.
But that's what Maggie said, that they're working on that new text amendment.
I know, that's what I mean.
We'll cover that.
That is something we're going to.
And we're even willing to wait for that text amendment to be in place. So there's the extra protection that there will be no additional, a special use permit allowed on any of the two parcels.
All right, okay. Any questions for the applicant? Any comments for the applicant? Anybody in the public that wants to address the board? Sure, come up, give us your name. Oh, hold on. I got you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Dale Johnson. I'm the one that's requesting the rezone. There's a lot of assumptions being made that I want to put, somebody may put a residence there. As long as I own that property, it ain't gonna happen. I've had many offers over the years to sell some of that. And the reason it never got sold was because they made the mistake of telling me they wanted to put a house on it. This law should have went in effect years ago, and I'd been real happy. Now I'm surrounded. The only intent that I have for wanting this rezone, simple math. 3 kids, 3 lots. Cut and dried, it's that simple. And people making assumptions about increasing residential density, that's just an assumption. That law doesn't say anything about drawing dirt, lines in dirt. It addresses noise contours, residential density. The potential of an aircraft falling on that dirt is not increased because it's 3 lots. I wish you really consider 3 different lots.
I just want to make it clear.
Because I've got so much money invested in it, I am willing to go to 2 lots. I don't think I should have to, especially on assumptions. And I thank you. Have a good day. And another thing, I want to compliment Fernando. He's a good man. You need to give him a raise.
We'll raise the amount of work he has to do, just to make sure he gets one. Again, come up. Sorry, I interrupted you. There was somebody else wanting to talk. But again, I just want to make clear that what we're facing with, and I don't want to make it clear through legal and through through staff, that the original application was for a 3 lots split for three sections. That the applicant is willing to go to 2 just to keep the density issue at bay, or just to deal with the density issue, and in an effort to get the process to at least happen, to at least get 1 lot split. Is that correct? That's right?
Mr. Chairman, what they're requesting is to change the land use designation to rural density residential. This land use designation allows
them
a
to go.
minimum of 2-acre lots. And for them to apply for the rezoning, this land use designation needs to be in place. The land use designation will not allow anything smaller than 2 acres, from 2 acres to 10 acres.
I understand that what we're saying is this is just the beginning of the process.
Yes.
The rezoning process happens later, where they will talk about, the split and so on and so forth. This allows it to begin, for the process to begin. This is not the rezoning issue. This is the approval to begin the process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Staff? Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Sir?
Okay, my name is Victor Roman. I live next door on the west side. I've known my neighbor Dell and his parents since I was a kid. I don't understand how anybody can, after all this residents all around this whole property, and now, just subdividing it in 2 or 3 is such a big issue. There are many, many properties a lot closer to the airport than this area. And now it's it's such a big deal with the MCAS and all this. Well, I guess one of my thoughts was, if you can't own land and do what you want, I know there's limitations, I understand that, but if it's so important to the government, then maybe they should buy it. That's one answer. The other is, like he stated, he's not trying to create a neighborhood or anything in there, but he does have kids, and as any father or any parent, you'd want to leave something behind. But this really limits a whole life of work and investment, and it just doesn't seem right that should be denied, in my eyes. It just doesn't.
Understood.
Guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah, we've made that argument before.
Yeah.
It's not the first time we talked about the horses out of the barn, things like that. But I think it's getting to a point now where there's statutes and there's a concerted effort to protect, because of what's happening with the military and the expansion of the military in these areas. There's a concerted effort to protect that particular part of our, Yuma, and it's getting to a point now where when we've constantly having to weight the property owner's right to the need to keep the operations of the Corps, fully protected. And it's getting to that point now where I think that as supervisors, we're looking at, let's just make sure that we don't get those cases as much as possible, because it will be known ahead of time. And I do understand what you're saying, and I know we all feel sympathy. We're trying to work our way through a process here that gives us very limited options, and that's what we're trying to sort out. But
yeah, it's like the government telling you can't spend the money you have in the bank.
Well, they tell me that all the time, but I still do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Victor. Anybody else? Well, it's back to us now.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things. This is a major amendment, so it requires 2/3 of the
supermajority. It requires a supermajority, which would be 2/3 of the board, which would be 4 out of the 5 members. Correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Right. Okay.
And then also this statute came into play to protect the air bases. But at that time, Yuma had the joint land use plan, which was an agreement between County of Yuma, the city, and the military, that the board would not allow parcels smaller than 2 acres. That plan has been substituted with our new plan, and we now have a statute meant to protect some other bases, which now is going to say that that this plan change can be objected by the military can object to this plan. If we still had the joint land use plan, then this would be allowed, and they could split it into three. So I'm not sure if this Attorney General is familiar
it goes
with
back
that.
to the point that Victor made about, the government limiting what you can do with your property. I think that I suppose as boards, we look at the greater good. And that's what's really happening here. We've got a situation where, the gentleman wants to do what he thinks is fair with his land, and he sees everything around him, and he says, why can't I do it now? And the explanation just being given by the attorney explains that a little bit. It's just that this is a moving situation where little by little, there's more restrictions on being able to do what you want with your land if you're in certain areas of the county. And this is one of those, unfortunately. All right, anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
When would you anticipate the rezoning would come back to the board? Because this is just step one, right? This doesn't rezone the property.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant applied for the rezoning last year, but we noticed that the mayor amendment was required, and the process for a mayor amendment is a long process that they only allow to apply from January to June. So they've been waiting a year for that rezoning case to happen. So they already applied for the rezoning.
And what is the current rezoning case requesting?
We cannot present the rezoning case until they get the land use change or approved by the board of supervisors.
Which is
okay. If this were to occur, I can tell you they better not come in with anything other than 2 acre and 5 acre, right? Common sense has to apply. There is no increase in density with this action and the subsequent action. And I said it before, I take a very dim view of the state trying to tell us what to do in our own backyard, particularly when we are not violating the intent of the statute. So, and it drives me crazy that we could sit here and tell this gentleman, you can't do what you want with your land. He's owned that land for many, many years.
Second
apparently.
generation. Mm-hmm.
And to tell him, you know what?
Sorry,
you can't sell part of your land to benefit yourself or your family in any way you see fit. That just does not fly with me. So that'll be my position.
We'll make it a motion so we can move
Mr.
forward.
Chairman, I move that we approve Major Amendment Case 2019 PA01 as presented, with the caveat that staff and the applicant understand. I will not, my vote will never be to split it down into twos. You better come back with a 2 and a 5, and then we're done. Okay? That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second to do just what he said. Did you take that in? Okay, I don't want to repeat that. May get it wrong. Any discussion on the item? We're gonna have to take a roll call vote because it's a supermajority required.
Okay. Supervisor McLeod.
Aye.
Supervisor Porches.
Aye.
Supervisor Pancrazzi.
No.
Supervisor Simmons.
No.
Nay. Chairman Reyes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so since this is a supermajority, the motion failed.
You're going to tell this gentleman he can't sell his land.
We've been talking for months, if not several years, about limiting the growth in the 65 plus. And we always come up with some reason to not do it. At what point do we say enough and have to start going with what we're telling or what we're wanting or what we're preaching?
Because there's no increase in density through this action.
This is the first step to that, though, I think.
Most knows.
Oh, I think we had our
Okay,
vote.
well,
I
we
mean,
had the vote.
unless we bring it up again for another vote, I think we, we pretty much, have the decision. That's it. Sorry, guys. All right. Move on to the next case. Sorry, Mr.
I
Johnson.
need to step out so I can scream.
Are you serious?
No.
We now have a minor amendment case, number 2019 MA-01, which is Craig Colvin, agent for James F. Labina Platt, requests to change the land use designation of 5.44 acres consisting of portions for 4 parcels from local commercial and a parcel 15 acres in size from regional commercial CLC and a parcel CRC to low-density residential RLD, assessors parcel number 700-39003 in the south portion of 005, 006, 007, and 008 located in the vicinity of the southwest corner of the alignment of Scottsdale Drive and South Frontage Road, Yuma, Arizona. That's it. You were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fernando Villegas, Senior Planner, presenting minor amendment case 2019 MA 01. This minor amendment case goes with a.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, these two items 2 and 3, are for the same parcel. One is a minor amendment, one is a rezoning case, and it's up to you if you would like to open
Yeah,
them
I'd like to
together.
open up the rezoning case. So one doesn't happen without the other anyway. So we'll also open up rezoning case number 1907, Craig Colvin, agent for James F. Labina. Platt request to rezone 5.44 acres consisting of portions of 4 parcels from general commercial C2 and a parcel 15 acres in size from rural area 10-acre minimum to low-density residential 6,000 square feet R16, which is assessor parcels number 73903 and the portion of parcels 05, 06, 07, or excuse me, 005, 006, 007, and 008 located in the vicinity of the southwest corner of South Frontage Road and Scottsdale Road in Yuma, Arizona. This opens up both the minor amendment case and the rezoning case to be discussed consecutively.
Chairman, for the minor amendment, the vicinity map shows that a portion is designated as local commercial, and the large parcel on the south side has the land use designation of regional commercial. Adjacent properties to the north and west are designated as local commercial, and adjacent properties to the south and east designated urban density residential. We have an aerial view of the existing conditions of the property and adjacent properties. Picture of the subject property looking east from Scottsdale Drive. Staff received comments from MCS requesting navigation and range disclosure statement for the rezoning case. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of this request because the amendment will allow the residential development that is consistent with and doesn't negatively impact the existing residential and commercial character of the area. The change will allow consistent zoning and land use development patterns, and the amendment addresses an oversight and consistency of other land use designations in the area, since the existing regional commercial land use designations is not suitable for that location. This concludes the minor amendment presentation. I'm going to continue with the rezoning presentation. The request for the rezoning is to rezone 5.44 acres consisting of portions of 4 parcels from general commercial C2 and a parcel 15 acres in size, some rural area 10 acres to low dense residential 6,000 square feet R16. The applicant intends to create a residential subdivision consisting of 104 lots. The vicinity map shows the parcels to the north, zone C2, vacant land. Parcel 738,005 to the northwest, it's zone C2 and is the location of the Yuma Regional Medical Center walk-in clinic. Parcel 738,007 to the west is zone C2, vacant land. Parcels 117 and 18, 118 to the south are zone RA10 and are vacant. Parcels 748, 002 to the east is zone manufacturing home park and is the location of the Rancho Rialto Recreational Vehicle Park. And parcels 740,002 to the northeast, zone C2, and is the location of the Arizona Public Service Substation.
And I'm sorry, what are 117 and 118?
117 and 118, those are vacant land.
Oh, but what are they zoned currently?
They're zone RA10.
Thank you.
This is the subdivision layout submitted by the applicant showing the 104 lots. And, again, the area view, the subject properties. Another picture looking southeast from Scouter Drive. Looking it from the west property line. And like I said, MCS, Yuma, and requested a navigation disclosure and a range disclosure for this rezoning case. The staff and Planning Zoning Commission is recommending approval with the following performance conditions and schedule for development. Within 60 days of approval by the board supervisor, the owner or agent shall provide the following: ARS waiver, a navigation disclosure statement, a range disclosure statement, and the schedule for development. The owner applicant shall require a final plat subdividing the subject properties into parcels of at least 6,000 square feet in size within 3 years of the board supervisor's approval for this rezoning case. This concludes both presentations, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions from staff? I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it's interesting how it got zoned commercial.
Yeah.
In the first place.
Yeah, well. All right, I'm going to, if there's no questions from staff or legal, I'm going to open it up to the public hearing, and allow anyone to come up and say almost anything, I guess. Is there anyone in the public that wants to, address the board on this? No? Okay, well, that may be good or bad, depending on, what happens next. The board, do you have any questions? Okay, there are no opposition from the Marine Corps Air Station, right? This is like, you only want a navigational statement or obligational statement stuff, so. It's gonna get to that point pretty soon, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You won't have to do that after we, get all this stuff done. Well, after the last one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve minor amendment case number 2019-MA01 as presented.
We'll move individually through this. We'll go through the minor amendment and then we'll go through the rezon. Any discussion on the motion? If no discussion on the motion?
We need a second.
Oh.
I'll second it.
Sorry, dude, I'm just moving too fast. There's been a motion and a second to approve minor amendment case number 2019-MA-01 as presented with the restrictions. I think it was Supervisor Simmons. He was feeling a little guilty, so he made that motion. Motion and second to approve minor amendment. Yeah, well. Any discussion on the item? No discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 This does not require, it's a minor amendment, right? So it does not require a supermajority, right?
Correct,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
The other item in here is a rezoning case, 1907. We've discussed basically the same case, so.
I move to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then motion and second to approve rezoning case number 1907. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion on the motion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Well, thank you. The next item is a special use permit. Those are always fun. It's a special use permit for Arizona Fuel, agent for Constance Brown, requests a special use permit per section 614.03 parenthesis A of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow facility to recycle and upgrade used motor oil to the finished product of marine gas oil on parcel 3.21 gross acres in size zone heavy industrial. Assessors parcel number 197-06-025 located at 10387 South Avenue 4E, Yuma, Arizona, located in the 75 to 79 decibel noise zone. There must be something. The Marines got to say something about this. So we'll get the staff to go through the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, the vicinity map shows the subject property and adjacent parcels. Parcel 36 to the north, its own light industrial in the city of Yuma jurisdiction. Parcel 29 to the west, its own light industrial. Parcels 26 and 27 to the south are its own general commercial. And parcel 30 to the east, its own light industrial. The site plan here submitted by the applicant shows a possible layout of the facility. The subject property was used by Mission Disposal as a recycling collection center and processing facility. The area view here shows existing conditions of the property. I know that the property is being cleaned up. The next slide shows a picture taken from Avenue 4E looking east. Another view of the subject property looking southeast from the railroad tracks. And the last one is Avenue 4E looking north. The property is located to the right, which is east. Staff received comments from MCS and the Yuma County Airport Authority requesting a navigation disclosure statement for this request. Staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval subject to the following performance and operation conditions. Within 60 days of the Board Supervisor's approval, the owner must submit an IRS waiver, a navigation disclosure statement, and the operational conditions. The approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan will require approval by the planning director pursuant to section 402.04 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. The applicant is in agreement with all the conditions, and this concludes staff presentation.
Does this require a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Is there a rail spur?
Is there a rail spur?
Rail spur to that property?
I think there's one located to the east, right?
Well, we'll let the applicant answer that question when we get to it. All right, is there any questions from the,
I just have a question. What, I didn't see I'm not able to open
This conforms
the
with
map or
the city's plan.
the comments there or the information, but what's the land use right now? What's the?
The land use designation is industrial.
Industrial?
Heavy industrial, actually.
Well, the zoning is heavy industrial, the land use designation is industrial.
Yeah.
So it's heavy industrial right now?
The zoning, yes, it's heavy industrial.
It's an allowable use. They're asking for a special permit to use the property for what? It was a waste management location site, so it's not like we're not, I don't know whether we're probably improving it in some ways.
It looks like.
So in some ways, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna open it to the public. If anybody in the public wants to address, including the applicant, which I suppose you guys, because you know, there's no other reason why you guys to stay here at the end of the meeting, so yeah, I guess you would be the applicants. Do you want to address the board or anything? And remember, when you're winning your application, you be careful what you say.
When you're winning, don't say anything.
Yeah, when you're winning, you know.
You're ahead.
You're ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kip Gilliland, Arizona Fuels, 19991 North 97th Place, Scottsdale, Arizona. Simply thank you for your time. Look forward to bringing this business to Yuma, Arizona.
Question.
Sure, go ahead and ask.
Mr.
Yes.
Gilliland?
Gilliland, yeah.
Gilliland. With the recycling process, none of this will go on the ground.
Correct.
Oh, of course not.
Thank
No,
you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we actually are going through a process right now to prove up that we match and meet and exceed certain standards for clean air environment and a clean process for zero emissions, zero pressure. So
Thank you, that's great, thank you.
And there is a rail spur to the property. It actually is included in the deed to the property, and it's active.
Well, good.
Oh, good.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else? No? Good. Anybody else from the public? There, oh, go ahead, go ahead. You're becoming increasingly familiar to us now.
Mary Ellen Finch, Marine Corps Air Station, Yuma. I just wanted to say, I know I always stand up here and I always oppose things, so I thought I would tell you that we're not always here to oppose things. When we get a case, all of the cases that we get from the county and the city planning staff, which they do an excellent job providing us a full picture of everything, we run those through it's our air installation compatible use zone order, Marine Corps and all their orders. And we have a whole chart, which is included in most of the state and the county plans and the city plans. And we look at what's compatible uses. So heavy industrial is definitely a compatible use in the 70 to 75 to 79. But we do look at, it's very, very specific uses. There are a few that aren't. And then we actually ask for our mitigating factors like a navigation disclosure. And those are mainly for areas where the public would be received, just so that they're aware that there are aircraft going by. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of people that we get phone calls from that act like they have no clue that there's aircraft that travel over their homes or their businesses. So I just wanted to let you know that yes, and the staff is always really good at including all of those navigation disclosures. For residential developments, we ask that those be passed on to each parcel as they're sold. So when you're signing your, 5 inches worth of paperwork, one of those pieces of paper is letting you know that there are aircraft that travel over. So.
And I want to ask you for forgiveness. Every once in a while, I call it a navigational easement, which is not really apply here. There's no C. It's a navigation.
Navigation. Yeah, it's a word that's not in some dictionaries, but yeah, we get the spell check changes into aviation.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks.
I'll bet it does.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm closing the public hearings section of this process and bring it back to the board for their decision.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve special use permit case number 19-05 as presented.
Second.
Been motion and second to approve special use permit case number 1905 as presented. Any discussion on the item? No. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Motion carries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lynn.
I did.
All right, that takes care of this particular item, and it moves us on to the event calendar and current events, which you guys don't have to stay for, but
Thank you.
you'd be welcome to, though.
Hi, John.
So I'm gonna let everybody just sort of stand up and stretch a little bit, and, we've got board members and county administrators report on may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county. We may present a brief summary of current events and update the schedule for future board of supervisor meetings. Appropriate, no legal action will be taken. This shows how much people are interested in whatever we have to report. You know what, and the moment I say that, everybody leaves but the newspaper.
Benito, he's
And I think
here.
Benito can't leave, and he must have distractions, stay there until the last minute, they may say something
Something
more
may
stupid
happen,
than-
yeah.
There's always that
There's always that possibility we may say something dumber that we already said before,
Like a
so.
football game, never
Yeah, it's
turns
like a
off till
football
it's
game,
over.
you gotta wait till the end.
Oh, the Cardinals lost in the last
Oh,
second.
yeah, I know,
Oh,
that was a bad game. It was a good game until the end.
It was a good game
Oh, it
until
was
the
just-
end.
But
yeah.
you know, that's kind of like what happens with new teams. I mean, they haven't learned how to close them. They've been closed almost in 5 or 6 games. They're really close. They just don't know how to
Yes,
close it down.
that's right. I know.
Anyway, they'll learn that with practice. Yeah, we get legal there a little bit off the side. It's okay. Now, Supervisor Pancrasi, you got 2 minutes.
Okay. I can get done in 2 minutes.
Oh,
Okay, I attended the fair relocation meeting. I attended ACO's county visit. That was very interesting. I attended a meeting at Superior Court for a Veterans Treatment Court meeting, and they're organizing it right now. The plans are going to be very beneficial to our community. I attended AWC Strategic Planning. It's called a Horizon Symposium. I went to the Arizona Border County Coalition meeting in San Luis. And I need to let everybody know and ask everybody to attend, please, please. November 21st at 10 a.m. at City Hall in the council chambers is a huge water meeting. There's a hedge fund that bought up Mojave County water off the Colorado for a piece of land, and they're trying to sell that Colorado River to the city of Queen Creek. And these meetings are going around the state and discussing this, and we're next. If our Colorado River body will be in jeopardy if this is allowed to happen. So we need to pack the chambers and make sure that everybody you know, every friend, every neighbor, every relative attends this meeting, and we need to pack City Hall to make sure that people realize that our water's not for sale.
What time?
It's at 10 a.m. on November 21st.
Thursday.
So please, if you're out there and you're watching this, please attend that meeting. Don't have to say anything, just go and be present so that people realize that Yuma's water is for Yuma. And we are going to protect all of rural Arizona, not just Yuma County. Thank you.
All right, Supervisor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the Arizona Border Counties Coalition meeting in San Luis, which the chairman did a great job of running that meeting. Attended the County Supervisors Association board meeting last Thursday, where I was able to turn over the gavel to the new president, Supervisor Rudy Malera from Santa Cruz County.
Well, that's going down.
Rudy, I'm sorry, I can't control the chairman. Yeah, but he'll do a great job. I look forward to serving with him over this next year. Also, Wednesday, the day before, some of us on the executive committee of CSA met with Senate President Karen Fann.
Oh, good.
She promised us a very brisk pace for this legislative session. And so,
Election
just
year.
so you know, that any legislation that we're advocating for, you need to get in and push early. Meet with our legislators, let them know what you think, and we'll need to be right on top of this stuff because they're going to move quickly. Also attended the ACO presentation and the Fair Relocation Working Group meeting, and there's progress on that front. And I think they're doing a good job, and Mr. Melcher is doing a great job of helping us
Yes, he
progress.
is.
And that's all I got. I'll be at the ACO board meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
And City Hall on Thursday.
Supervisor Simmons?
Thank you.
Attended a class at Amberley's place. Had an Arizona Peace Trail meeting. Moving forward slowly. We've got it pretty much lined out other than about a 3-mile section. And it's just trying to find the most appropriate route to keep it away from agriculture and the water district out there property. So that's getting there. Attended the Marine Corps cake cutting ceremony for their birthday. Had a Mesa del Sol homeowners board meeting. Met with some Desert Air residents, referenced some issues that they have.
Oh, wow.
Had a PSPRS meeting. Attended Walton Mohawk Irrigation District board meeting, and also attended the parks meeting. So that's about it.
Boy,
And we'll be at the thing Thursday.
thank you. You and I, boy.
Better post it. Looks to me like more than 2 members will be there.
Yes, thank you. Oh, you better post it, yeah.
Right, Supervisor Porches.
I attended the parade, Veterans Parade.
Oh, fun.
That's nothing too.
Missed all of you.
Well, I was busy.
I was in Welton doing their
I was out of
parade.
town. I was out of the country, actually.
I also attended the CSA meeting on last Thursday. Saw Supervisor McLeod pass the gavel to Supervisor Malera.
There goes the neighborhood, huh?
Santa Cruz. And I also attended the ABCC meeting and the Port of Entry tour. which is
ABC is
great.
the
And
Arizona
thank you,
Border Counties Coalition.
Supervisor McLeod and the chair for attending.
You need to
And
watch that
Susan.
Santa Cruz bunch, they'll corrupt you.
Yeah.
They
It won't
already,
take much, but.
I think it's the other way around.
Well, that's true too.
I keep him in line.
Yeah. What is it, the golf line or what? Right, okay, that's it?
That's
Oh,
it.
well, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to thank all the supervisors and Susan and, you know, all of you that had a part in making sure that meeting of the Arizona Border Counties Coalition in San Luis took place. It took place in the library. That was the actual meeting. Before that, there was a tour, a port of entry tour, in which, again, you know, you tread very, you know, thin ice when you talk about, you know, the border crossing and the operations of the border crossing, because they're sensitive to almost any kind of criticism, especially criticism regarding how long it takes to get into the country. Now, it feels weird because it's been the same conversation since 1984 when I was mayor there. You know, it's a long lines, and you know, I think that there's a disconnect, and this is just a comment, but there's a disconnect between what they think is a well-run operation and what the outside world thinks is a well-run operation. The outside world will think it's a well-run operation they can get through quicker. They seem to be more focused on the operations of the actual border, their safety, you know, whatever the operations, and they tend to be a little too sensitive when you talk about the fact that, you know, we look at it differently. But it was an interesting tour, and I think that the most glaring thing that came out of that tour is not necessarily how, you know, how it operates in the old port of entry, but how underutilized the commercial port of entry is, and how high tech that port of entry is. And you know, it's a disappointment that it doesn't get used more. But again, that's part of the discussion. The meeting went relatively well. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for attending, and thank Supervisor Porches for the hot lunch, the hot tamale lunch that he had set up for
My
that.
husband loved the leftovers.
Yeah, you know, it was really hot.
It was really hot.
Really hot, but it was good. And I want to personally thank Supervisor McLeod for representing us that well at the CSA. I had my doubts at the beginning, but you know, he did well. He did very well. And you know, I just want to thank him for that service. I think he represented us really well, and that should do it for me.
One more comment. I want to, Desiree, thank you for all you did too for the CSA meeting.
See, I told you there was somebody else, I'm sure. Susan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I attended the Arizona Border Counties Coalition meeting, and always very helpful to know what other people are experiencing and how we can support one another in making some improvements in our relationships with the state and federal government and our border issues. I didn't get to go on the port of entry tour. My understanding it was just for elected officials, but so I didn't sign up, and I wish I had in hindsight, but hopefully I'll have an opportunity in the future. And then I am a member of the NACO Deferred Compensation and Retirement Solutions Committee, and they're going to be meeting in Columbus, Ohio Wednesday, so I'll be flying up there tomorrow and then flying back Wednesday. So I'll be out of town. Well, I'll have all my work paraphernalia with me and be able to get in touch with me whenever you need.
You're going to Ohio?
Yes, Columbus, Ohio. I hope it's not the same as when I went to Chicago and my luggage.
Columbus, Ohio is a beautiful
I came
town.
back and my luggage was somewhere else. So I'm hoping
I was
that-
visiting other places,
Yes.
other airports.
Talk to Gladys.
Yeah, talk to
Okay.
Gladys about it.
That's
Just
it.
don't ask her for a parking space for free. Is that it? I know John remembers that time when we were renegotiating the lease with the park, and I had the audacity to ask him if there was any chance that the county could get a free parking spot there. Well, that was not a very welcome conversation there. But anyway, anything else? If nothing else, well, we got done before noon. Thank you, legal, for keeping it brief. Get ready for the challenge. From the